Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome along to the GLL Masters Spring. It's semi-final times once again for North America, and I'm blessed once more to be joined by Andy Dudinsky, known, of course, to everybody as Bravo. A crazy day yesterday, a great 6 games, Andy. Looking forward to more today.
Me too. I mean, you and I have been kind of geeking out and even rewatching the games from yesterday just because of how much we enjoyed them and talking about how much excited we were to come back today and do 6 more to see how these semifinals wrap up. An awesome set of games yesterday. We saw some consistency from some teams that we expected. And as we talked about at the end of yesterday's show, there were certainly some teams that haven't quite stepped it up in that department. So today's the day where they really need to put the pedal to the metal if they want to make sure that they get into the finals of the GLL Masters Spring.
Yeah, 6 games to do so. And the wonderful thing about the format, as you can see, is we have 12 games to decide who the top 10 teams will be. And these were the winners of the games that we saw yesterday. First game went to TSM, then Logic Gaming went back-to-back. NRG with a win in that 4th game, and then Bottom 20 and Vibes picking up the win in that final game of the day. There was a lot of different stories there, Andy. We were looking around that 10th place and what teams were either side of it, who was looking good, who was looking bad, and that 10th place is what it's all about today, getting inside that top 10. And as you can see on your screen here, 6 more games to decide who will get in there.
Absolutely. And as we talked about yesterday, there's a lot of time left to play. Like we said, even though the bubble might not be that big, certainly teams can expect to find themselves in that come the end of the day, but it's also quite a prize pool on the line as well.
Oh, 100%. I mean, $100,000 on the line for these teams. 15K for first. You can see the pricing down to 5th place as well. AOGS point system as well, something that I'm sure everyone who's followed competitive Apex for some time will be used to. First place, as far as placement is concerned, will pick up 12 points. And then all the way down, you can see, unfortunately, if you finish 16th to 20th, you don't get anything, but you do get 1 point per kill as well, which we saw be incredibly influential yesterday, Andy.
Absolutely. I mean, if you took a look at everything that we saw from the likes of late game runs from Hal for TSM and how he kept them on top of the leaderboard and the way that other teams were able to really rack up some points. But the one that really comes to mind certainly are going to be your TSMs and your CLGs with the way that they've been making sure to get a lot of kills on the board with each win as well.
Yeah, NRG doing a great job yesterday as well. Really impressed with what we saw from them. But as we mentioned, there's 2 stories here, right? There's obviously the main one, which is who is going to get into that top 10, who's going to qualify for the finals that is going to be coming up soon. We do have the other lobby going on as well. There's 2 semi-finals, of course, there has to be. And this is what the standings were after the 6 games were finished yesterday. TSM on top with 71 points. And we talked about how important kills were, Andy. 42 for TSM.
Yeah, it's a big kill tally, and just take a look at how many more. I mean, even they're getting outplaced in terms of placement points by both CLG and HRN in 2nd and 3rd, but their kill points are more than making up for it. But let's keep in mind, TSM did have a larger lead earlier in the day, so teams are certainly catching up to them. The middle of the pack is interesting, but as we talked about, it's really right around that 8th through 11th right now that is the existing bubble. But let's not forget that the likes of Space Station, Lonely Fans, RCO, and everyone else, they can certainly make their way in. 6 games is a long time to get part of that top 10 conversation. So it will be a big day for those teams that are still fighting in. And the teams like, My Little Phony and Down, they really shouldn't feel too comfortable. There's a whole second day, a whole day 2 to play here. So really everyone needs to be on top of their game, maybe even more so than yesterday.
I agree with you. I think a lot of teams that are outside of that top 10 and even potentially inside of them had the opportunity to go away, review their games, what went wrong, what went right, how they want to approach today. And we could see a little bit of a change in play style for some of those teams who are desperate to get inside of that top 10. But I'm talking about multiple storylines here. I always love seeing what's happening at the top, even though it's not too important who comes top as far as, what the format is. You need to get in the top 10 to get into the finals. That's what the semi-final was all about. But when you see those big names up there, Andy, at the top, it's always a little bit of a spar, isn't it, between who is performing best, who's going to take home that win, and that could carry over into our finals coming up as well.
Oh, absolutely. We highlighted it just a little bit yesterday, but really the pace that you set as a team at stages like this at the semifinals, not only does it make a statement across the lobby, but it really creates a habit across the team. And with teams that I've worked with, the teams that come into even these stages firing on all cylinders, it really does carry over, not just from momentum, but really from habit building as well.
And one team who needs to step it up as we take a look at our second semifinal that is running simultaneously. For me, it is 14th placed, a Solar Fide, one of the most consistent teams we see in North America, not having the most consistent day yesterday. You see the likes of Complexity and Team Liquid comfortable inside of that top 10 at the moment. But for Solar Fide, a really big day for them, Andy.
Really big day. This was for them to exit at the semifinal stage here at the GLL Masters Spring would be an absolute disappointment after we saw the consistent performances from them in the winter circuit throughout it. Definitely not what they're looking to do, but they're in a pretty big tie here. If we take a look at all the way from 12th down to essentially 15th or so, only 3 points separating that entire batch. So they need to make sure that they separate from that as quickly as they can and make sure that these 6 games really count today.
Yeah, I've just had a look across the point total for the second semi-final. You can see it's incredibly close between every single spot. You've got Team Liquid and BSC tied on 39 points and 7th and 8th respectively. TSS just behind them, 33 for the Doge Fathers. Excuse me, the Doggy Father. I don't know what they called. I'm not up to speed
Doge
with
Fathers,
current
you got it.
Doge, yeah, that's what I thought it was.
It's
I'm
Doge,
not
yeah,
investing.
you got it.
Anyway, and then Absolute Units on 33 as well. So you can see how tight things are in that second semi-final, which is a wonderful thing about the longer format. As we say, a massive opportunity to pick up points for team, a massive opportunity for them today to get things right that didn't go right yesterday and make that run that they need to do.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to something that we've talked about a lot, not just here, but also at the ALGS, is the amount of talent in North America. And the fact that we're looking at 40 teams here in the North American semifinals, and there's a lot of teams that are not signed that are in that top 10 right now that are looking to really make a statement and upset some of these more well-known teams and players. So it definitely is a testament to the amount of skill that's in North America right now. But like you said, 6 more games for each side, and really anything can happen here. Yesterday was a little bit of a table setter, but teams will need to perform outside of really the top 2 to 3. You'll need to step up today, and if you slip, you could easily come out of that top 10 because, as you said, how close the table is.
Now let's give a little refresher of what happened yesterday. Of course, we've seen the leaderboards, but we should talk through who impressed us, because for me, bottom 20 were the team that really impressed me alongside HRN. To be honest with you, HRN always one of those teams who can have those pop-off games. I mentioned it yesterday. Euris, I saw a clip from him where he won a 1v3 with a Kraber in his hand. Absolutely disgusting. The kind of thing that you want to see from a teammate if you're teaming with him. But I mean, those two teams really did impress me yesterday. I didn't know what your thoughts were on it.
Yeah, that was against bottom 20 at Lava City. If you haven't, I mean, most people have based on the amount of likes that tweet has, but make sure you get to Euris's Twitter or his Twitch just to catch that clip, because that clip is absolutely absurd, that 1v3 Kraber. I would say bottom 20, certainly a team, despite being on the receiving end of that, that has really impressed us. I also agree, HRN kind of coasting yesterday, and by that I mean simply making sure that they were getting top 3s pretty often and making sure that they were being consistent and putting great points on the board while not maybe being the focal point of the game. So I mean, coasting in the best way for that squad, and putting up some really good numbers. So that's another team that definitely surprised me. And I think, like we said, TSM, and not just because they're at the top of the table, but the way that they played yesterday. I think TSM's a team, when we look at a semifinal, it's so easy to say, yeah, TSM's going to get through. But instead, they're really playing to their potential and squeaking out every single point that they can. You saw even like with Hal's late game runs, right? And taking on that 1v1 against Space Station. You can't really call it a full team wipe, but just getting all those points that they can on the board, and it's added up. And I think, like you had said yesterday on set, TSM doesn't always play that way. Sometimes they make day 2 really hard on themselves, but instead they're sitting really pretty today.
Yeah, a really hot start from TSM yesterday, and you saw them carry that momentum through. Really seem to be a momentum-based team. It's great to see TSM starting off the way that they've struggled to do in some of the recent tournaments. But NRG, for me, as well, one of those teams that I love to watch yesterday. I thought the Sweets calling was absolutely superb in certain situations. But CLG, for me, I don't know what it is, but we always talk about, major teams. We always talk about the likes of TSM, etc. I don't know why, but CLG don't get talked about enough for me with what they do on a consistent basis. They are always in position for that top 5, regardless of how the game actually ends up. They get positions so consistently. Just fantastic. Probably one of the best rotating teams we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And they look better and better with the more that we see from them. I think it was somewhere, you could say, after the first year of Apex, where everyone was like, wait a minute, this CLG squad really talented. A lot of eyes on, more and more eyes were on Madness and what he brought to the team on that Wraith. And I think it's only really continued from there in terms of what they're capable of. And we saw really patient positioning from a few teams yesterday, and CLG is absolutely one of them. You think back to that Ridge game and how they played that, and Madness sneaking out that second place with that Q against Vibes. But just really their performances yesterday, I agree with you. I don't think that they're talked about enough, and I think they're getting to the point where they can no longer be ignored, and they look really strong.
Now let's talk about what was going on from the dropship onto World's Edge yesterday. Some of the drops. You say we were nerding out a little bit. We were, and you were tracking all of the drops that were happening through yesterday. And there was a couple of teams that were kind of surprising us with their choices on where they were deciding to land and where they were deciding to land differently every other game. It felt like.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've put together a drop map here just to track everything from yesterday as we rewatched all of those matches. So to bring a little bit of order to the chaos, it was Outcast Gaming that was by far all over the map the most. Outcast was actually the one that was causing the most chaos across the drops. Like we talked about, you expect to see a little bit of that, but they had a thermal drop against MST game one. They didn't really like that. Then they went over to around Spring's End, a little bit too close to NRG, and then for the rest of the game they went up to Refinery, which actually put a little bit of a damper on the My Little Phony drop, which was a split Epicenter Survey Refinery drop, and of course they maybe were a little bit bitter to have lost Refinery there. But the last thing that was interesting that I'll point out quickly was Smooth Bananas had a train yard drops in game 1 and game 2. Then for 3, 4, 5, they switched over to Geyser. Though they weren't contested at train, they switched over to Geyser and contested Buff Path 3 games in a row, which we caught quite a bit on those opening battles. And then they just decided at the end for the final game to go back to train. So interesting, and I understand the reasons for not wanting to drop train just because of the complications that can come from that drop. But to leave a safe drop for a contested one 3 games in a row and give up, it's just not a good sign. We'll have to see what they play today.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing where they drop, to be honest with you, at the start of today's game when we get into our first game, which of course will be game 7 of the semi-finals. But let's talk about some of the teams that are going to be looking over their shoulder a little bit. Sentinel's one of those teams currently. I think they're in 8th place. I'll have to double check the leaderboards at the moment. They had moments of brilliance yesterday, but then they also had those games that we do see from them sometimes where things just don't go right early on. And I think the final game of the day was an example of that. Maybe a little bit overconfident, I would say, with where they were looting, what their loot path was, and caught off guard by TSM and losing one player almost immediately. It's just kind of the story for Sentinels a little bit at the moment. They have these brilliant games where you're seeing these insane Kraber shots and great positioning, and then when they put these points on the board, they will then follow it up with a game where they get barely any points on the board, and there's that inconsistency that needs to be looked at.
Certainly, yeah. And using that game 6 as an example, you have to wonder how much of that is Sentinels and how much of that is getting caught off guard by an amazing early move by TSM. But regardless, that should have been a pretty big game for them, because keep in mind, a sorting drop and a ridge finish there in those ridge buildings, they should have very easily been able to be one of the first teams in there. Instead, TSM with one of the fastest pushes we've seen from them in terms of, I don't mean just a rotation, but an actual push onto an opponent. We've seen them. We know how fast they can get out of Frag East, and we know that they're watching their loot timer and their in-game timer. They know exactly what second mark they have to leave based on the zone, and they've always been so good at that. But that push was absurd, and Sentinel should have had a high placing in that game. So I agree. Whether it's the ALGS Winter Circuit playoffs or the games yesterday, there are still games that we're not seeing big enough results from Sentinels. And I think I would love to see more decisiveness, more cohesion on that squad, because like we said yesterday, we know what they're capable of.
Well, are there any other teams that you're thinking right now have got to be looking over their shoulder? Because there's a few that are chasing. Peanut Butter Sandwich is one of those teams that's kind of 11th place. I believe they were just outside of the top 10, and that would be an upset to see them not make it.
It would be a big upset. Peanut Butter Sandwiches definitely jumps out as a team that we expected to be in the top 10 without a doubt. So definitely a team that's looking over their shoulder. Space Station, we talked a lot about yesterday. Right now sitting in the middle of the bottom half, so they need a big day. It's not just a day of figuring a few things out, but they need to come out with some big performances, and those need to come either early or they need to string together and kind of a heroic effort at the end of the day, which is not what they're going to want to do. So definitely 2 teams that I'm keeping an eye on for today.
Now let's talk about players individually. We talked about Eureka and some of the things he managed to pull off yesterday. For me, one of the most exciting players to watch, always seems to be doing something crazy. And I love when he's picking Pathfinder as well. I think it just gives him every single tool he needs to pull off some crazy plays. He had the 1v3 Kraber. You also saw the zip juggling, which got me in all kinds of feels. A little bit of a throwback to see the zip line and the Pathfinder combining once again to give us little bits of magic. But what was the one standout player for you yesterday you thought really was popping up in these games?
Man, let's see. If a single player, it'd be tough to say. I'd have to say on the I loved what we saw from a few different IGLs. Sweet jumps out with what we saw from NRG, just the way that they were patiently moving around the map, and of course that Lava City end that we talked about a lot yesterday comes to mind with their timing on that pad up to rooftop. So definitely it jumps out, and I'd say aside from that, definitely on the CLG side, I think the same thing with their IGL, with Madness, just the way that they had their rotations and they were playing so quickly and really on the same page. So those two IGLs definitely sticking out. We'll have to see if it's able to continue today. And of course, it goes without saying, but TSM sitting on top, there's a reason that they're there. They're playing so well as well.
Well, you can see that game number 7 is underway. It's the first game of the day today. North American semifinals continues, and we're going to jump on board with TSM to start things off today. Top of the leaderboards, an amazing amount of aggression coming out from TSM yesterday, which is something I really enjoyed seeing, Andy. They did not let any advantage slip through their fingers.
They really didn't here, and great to see them coming out early, like we talked about. TSM's a team that can get themselves out of any uncomfortable situations, and we've seen them do it time and time again. But TSM, you could say, as long as they continue where they left off and they pick up where they left off from yesterday, that they will be even more dangerous, because now they have just a little bit of a point cushion, but they can really make the plays that they want to, and they're not going to be forced to make a little conservative plays that are going to guarantee points. But instead today, they can maybe even make even more of a statement.
Well, TSM going to be doing what they do best, which is, of course, looting up nice and quickly. And we do get a little look in the top left-hand side of your screen. You can see where the beacon has been pinged. And it's looking like a fairly central zone at the moment. Maybe a lot of Harvester involved in it. We'll have to see when we do pull out. And it is actually going to be Harvester. You can see that right now. So team's going to be looking to make a rotation. It's always interesting to see where the pings come in from the IGLs from teams. We're on board with TSM at the moment. No pings gone down. Maybe just the conversation being had between how Reps and Snipedown about where they want to play. But there is the ping. They want to get inside of that snake building.
Absolutely, they do, and they're going to have a lot of people that also want to do the same thing. Sentinels ballooning out already, and they're moving quickly. We're going to keep an eye to see if they run into any trouble. But just to give an update on drops, everything back to normal right now. And you do see that Smooth Banana's back at train, which kind of brings everything back to the set drops that we saw at the end of the day, only in Game 6 yesterday.
We're going to see an interesting composition here as well, a Wraithless composition. It's always strange to see Retzi not on the Wraith. He kind of is one of those players who has always favored Wraith and what she can do, but changing over to Octane, we're seeing a lot of this now, Andy. Octane really becoming a favorite of the aggressive players, the first players into the fights, like Retzi, like How, and it kind of seems to have taken over. Even Sweet, which was a surprise to me, playing Octane yesterday.
Absolutely, and it comes into, of course, not just the ability for the quick movement, but speaking of, take a look. This is what I was worried about with Sentinel. I'm glad they made that move that we talked about. They got out quick, but you saw just based on their balloon path that they were going to run into trouble, and now...
Yeah, it's going to be TSM behind them. So TSM right now trying to push in and finish off this fight. Retzi's holding at the moment, but Xenox has gone down. So a 3v2 situation, which they're trying desperately to get out of here. Cross now trying to ADS with the Eva 8 and do some damage, but all around him, Retzi's managed to get out and managed to pop herself, but TSM being just as aggressive now as they were yesterday. Impressive stuff here from TSM at the start of this game.
It really is, and they seem to have Sentinel's number, as Crust is going to try to do whatever he can alongside Retzi. Barely able to get off a little bit of heals here, but it looks like they're going to have to continue retreating if they want to stay in the game.
And you were worried about Sentinels getting caught on the rotation? Well, they have been caught on the rotation, and it is TSM again. How, you can see, managing to get the knock, and we're already seeing some kills go down in the feed. Urice and Hill getting involved. HRN once again starting off hot, and RCO seem to be on the receiving end of that. But Cross has managed to get away momentarily here, so it sounds like there might have been maybe a little bit of resistance for TSM as they didn't want to overextend, potentially with some teams already making a rotation into Harvester, where they are expecting this zone to end up in this game number 7, but Crust at least managing to get those heals off so he can live to fight for another day, unless, of course, he gets swarmed by 3 players.
Yeah, HRN running into trouble. They had a little bit of a road from Lava City. We'll get an update on them later. As you see, it's actually Cruelty in the feed going up against them, and Crust now just going to try to hold up, but could TSM have asked for a better start? And it's almost a little bit of deja vu from yesterday. Right off the bat, they knew exactly where they needed to go. Sentinels also didn't waste time. They knew that push might be coming, as Crust is finally going to have to port back and might not get out of this one.
Yeah, that's going to be the end of Crust, unfortunately. And Imperial House starts the game off with 3 kills to his name, continuing the fine form we saw from him yesterday. TSM really coming in and mixing things up in this game number 1. Bottom 20, one of our impressive teams from yesterday, taking this height area around where that you crafting station usually finds itself. It doesn't look like it is there right now, but they're in a great position to overlook all of this action that's going down. But look at the kill feed, Andy. 16 squads remaining already. Everybody is looking for a scrap at the start of today's action.
Yeah, CLG picking up kills as well in the feed, as you're going to actually see right there. Cool Cats goes down to the hand of CLG. So like you said, already at 16, and one of our fastest games without a doubt in the semifinal in terms of teams eliminated compared to the time elapsed so far, due to just how central this pool is and teams being forced into those similar chokes. But Sentinels, I have to say, they did not waste time, because right when we took a look at that obs cam, they were already ballooning, but you could already just tell based on that balloon route that they were going to run into all the teams that had the same idea about getting into Snake. And TSM, same exact strat as yesterday. They knew exactly where they wanted to go. Whether or not they anticipated that they would find Sentinels there right away almost doesn't matter, because they got that position and they were able to get that first pick, and that's all they needed. That first damage gave them the path, and it cleared the way for them to hold the exact position they wanted to hold in match number 7.
Yeah, great stuff from TSM early, and we talk about how important just those seconds can be on rotation. That was a perfect example of it. If this is one of your first times watching competitive Apex and you hear a lot of talk from the likes of us about rotation and how important it is to be quick, loot up as quickly as possible, and make the quickest possible route to where you want to hold down, that's the difference right there. Sentinels just a few moments too slow on their rotation to get far enough ahead of TSM, who are obviously coming through from Fragment East to that cut, and they get caught off guard. It's as simple as that. A few seconds, it might as well be minutes in Apex Legends. If you make one mistake on that rotation, you can be caught out almost immediately.
Oh, especially with the way that these teams have it down to a science on when they need to get out, especially if you just think about TSM, when they need to get out of Frag East. When you listen to those scrims, they're looking at that timer. They know the exact second that they need to leave, and if they don't, they know they're in trouble. And as a result, they're so disciplined on those departures, on those rotation times, as you take a look at these 16 squads still in the game, and the first 4 that exited as well.
Yeah, a little bit of a worry for Sentinels and RCO Esports, who both, well, Sentinels were inside of the top 10, but after this game, they might find themselves having to answer that question again. RCO Esports, who were outside of that top 10, but one of those teams you would expect to maybe make a run today. Not the greatest of starts for them. You can also see a couple of players have been picked off as well. HRN down to 2 men, and the same can be said for Westside. But it seems like at the moment, everyone's kind of just slowed things down a little bit here. Everyone's found a little bit of a safe haven. That early rotation scuffle has slowed down a little bit now, and you're seeing the likes of NRG here, who had a really good day 1 yesterday, was posted up inside a Snake.
Certainly, and as we talked about, also a team that came into the quarterfinals with 100 points from that quarterfinal, an average of 16.6 points per game, which is an insane average. They had 3 wins and 2 fourth-place finishes in the quarters, and wouldn't be surprised if they continued to play the way they did yesterday, if they found themselves even higher on the leaderboard at the end of the day.
You're going to see that CLG are actually going to be involved in a fight, I believe. They might have been able to pick one player off right at the north side of World's Edge. You can see them engaging in that right now, and we're going to jump on board. Great job from the observing team to catch this fight in action. Lou bubbling now, having to pop a battery, and you can see that Madness was trying to get aggressive as well. And it looks like Lou has actually managed to get that first pick on that player who just wandered off a little bit from his 2 teammates, and that is going to mean blood here for Counter Logic Gaming. They don't let these kind of advantages slip.
They absolutely don't. They're going to make this one count. That's actually going to be Outcast Gaming who's up there with them. Like we said, they moved to Refinery after some questionable drops yesterday, and they find themselves in this battle in the north.
Now you can see they're going to portal in as well. Crispy Bacon's going to be up on top, and a nice thermite from him. At least he's going to get some damage. You'll have to listen for the audio cue to see if that crack does come in, but unfortunately for the Rick, he's in a little bit of problems here as his shields have been broken. He's down to flesh as well. Crispy Bacon goes down, and CLG, even with that knock, should be able to finish this fight off. They do so. Vaxlon comes in to clean things up. Madness will be brought back to his feet, and that's early KP on the board for CLG, and not the first ones either. You can see the Vaxlon now has 4 kills in the lobby.
Yeah, it's we talked about him beforehand, and just how strong they look, and they only continue to look better and better. It's a very nice push from them. Of course, CLG with that skyhook drop, and Outcast actually taking a very wide route in. They go all the way around through Survey Epicenter, all the way to that skyhook pass to meet them right around kind of Hill Valley East, and not the team that you want to run into at that stage in the game. And like you said, CLG with the first pick, and then they didn't waste any time. Rigda and Crispy Bacon trying to make something happen on the
today,
rooftop. I did.
Nailed that.
Because I listened to how bad I screwed it up yesterday, so I had an opportunity to really improve. I'm not going to try it again because that was a one and done.
I think you've peaked. Yeah, I think you've
that's
peaked.
it. I know I'm not getting any better than that. But they didn't go down without a fight. They fight from the rooftop, but they will be out here a little bit earlier than they wanted, as CLG will make their road. But unsurprisingly, everything being taken in Harvester as fast as possible.
Yeah, CLG hitting the beacon here as well is going to give them the information that they require, as you can see it on your screens as well. NRG inside of Harvester, TSM in there as well. Bottom 20, I called them top 20. Do you know what? I'm going to change their name. They should be top 20 because they're playing that well today. SSG are going to have to make a move as well, but there's actually a fight going on right on the edge of the zone at the moment, and you can see Buff Pathfinder are involved. Nice shots with the Mastiff, a 55 and a 77 will get the break, but unfortunately, they're going to have to back up now. Bubble goes down. Beams are going to be coming in from Caps as well, doing everything he can to stay alive, but this is looking like somewhat of a messy fight here, Andy. Not sure if either of these teams have total control.
Yeah, absolutely. This is getting really messy really quick.
Caps trying to do what he can, but looks like Vibes have the advantage here. It's going to be Caps who comes back through, and that looks like it will be the clean wipe. So Vibes, our winner of the final game of yesterday, managed to win that battle, and they will pick up those KP to go alongside it. One team I actually wanted to focus on, though, is CLG, and a great job from the observing team, reading my mind, because we talked about how good they were on their rotation yesterday, Andy. A little bit of a different strategy for them in this game as well with this Harvester ring. Playing edge and playing a little bit slowly. And we talked about how teams cannot be a one-trick pony essentially now in Apex Legends. You need to be able to play different situations. CounterLogic Gaming showing that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great opportunity for them to play a little bit slower here at Train and just win these battles the way that they do.
When they're inside of the ring, so they can take their time with this fight. You can see the ring's going to be closing in 17 seconds, but they are safe for now. So it looks like that team who is up in this train car is going to be Smooth Bananas, and unfortunately for them, the fight isn't going too smooth for them at the moment. And CLG now seeing that they've got the damage done, and now the aggression is coming in. They bubble in, they automatically snap onto these players. Madness is flicking crazily with the EVA 8, trying to finish off these kills. And CounterLogic Gaming, once again, just walk in, wipe the floor, and pick up KP.
I gotta say, you had a feeling when they were in the train building, even though they were fighting up into the train cars and they had to make what is generally considered a difficult maneuver, a difficult route, you had to think that they were going to have the perfect bubble push there. And like you said, as soon as an EVA 8 pops out with these players on a bubble fight, it's going to end up real quick. CLG still looking strong here, playing edge, like you mentioned on set.
Yeah, Madness and Lou, probably two of the best bubble fighting players that you could have. I mean, the R9 and Madness almost as synonymous with each other as How on the R99 from the early days of Apex Legends. But for me, Lou, in those bubble fights, when the EVA or a Mastiff in his hand, he just has that ability to flick onto players' heads, to do 80 pluses with the Mastiff or consistent damage with the EVA 8. It really is impressive to watch. But I want to give some love to Vaxelon as well. Even if you get the superstars alongside them, Vaxelon does such an amazing job of being the glue for CLG, and I think he needs to be given quite a lot of props for what he brings to this team.
Yeah, look at this. Lou's forced to bubble because Madness finds himself in a whole world of hurt. Need to be careful here with this Mind Pass battle.
Yeah, Lou's going to manage to knock two again. Once again, CLG's bubble fighting so impressive. Madness does go down, but he would have done some damage along the way. And now you're seeing another player come in. The Prowler, though, from Lou is going to decimate that player who is trying to push in and do what he can to turn that fight around. But once again, CounterLogic Gaming doing a great job of holding their line, winning the bubble fight, and now trying to hold and reset as well.
Yeah, my goodness, look at that. You saw Madness not hesitating at all. He flies right in, and after taking that damage, you see Lou throw that bubble as far as he can all the way down to give them the cover they need to not only give Madness a little bit of an advantage, ability to bubble fight, but also ability to reset, but also get the entire team in that mix. And they are playing so quick. The way they move through Mind Pass, we got to see it on the ob screen. Just they did not wait at all. They flew right in, and even though it looked like for a moment there was a disadvantage, they pushed anyway. They pushed together, and like you say so many times on set, those kind of calls, even if they're maybe a bit risky and could be argued in retrospect as the wrong call, when you have three players like CLG doing them at the same time, they can quickly become the right call.
Oh, 100%. And CLG, a great example of that in that particular bubble fight. That's three fights, excuse me, we've jumped on board with CounterLogic Gaming, that they've just dominated inside and around that bubble. So great job bubble fighting from CounterLogic Gaming. As we jump over to Peanut Butter Sandwiches, a team who needs a performance today, Andy. It cannot be put any more simple than that.
Yeah, they really do. Like we talked about in the pregame, but just in case you missed it, for these players, Saucer, Pow Pow, and Bowser, for these players to not as a GLL would be such a big surprise, such a big upset, and they know that too, so they're really going to be turning it on to.
Yeah, they're trying to hold their ground at the moment because, as I said, they need a big performance. I cursed them. A sorcerer went down almost immediately, and now it's just a two-man situation. But Bowser manages to get the knock there onto Mr. Herculo, and they have managed to hold their ground here. So peanut butter sandwiches, they needed a big performance, and they needed an early clutch moment in this first game. They've managed to hold their ground.
Yeah, Bowser able to get that swap as well, with Pow Pow making sure to bring that wing out to get the finish, just to make sure that they can reset even faster up there on the rooftop. But checking back in with CLG, mine pass south right now, thinking about making a move, but they'll need to pop some bats as well.
Yeah, they'll have to get those heals. Obviously, 2 Phoenix kits being popped by both Vaxelon and Madness. And I think the team that's going to be holding them out is Space Station Gaming. So this is a really big moment here, not only for CLG as they have to fight their way inside of this next zone, but also for Space Station. If they manage to win that fight, Space Station, against CLG, who have had the hot hand, who have started off so well in this game, it will give them so much confidence ahead of these games ahead.
Absolutely, and they just are showing no signs of slowing regardless of who's ahead of them, and they are just able to move up. And as soon as they get the right kind of damage, or even like we saw in the last mine pass, whether or not they have the right, they're going to fly in and they're going to make that happen. So after these cells, they're taking that port.
What will go down? Madness did such a good job yesterday with finding those little areas of protection for Counter Logic Gaming to port onto teams, to port into safe areas, and now it's going to be a straight up 3v3 fight here between CLG and Space Station. Big crack coming in for Vaxelon. All of a sudden it's carnage. Vaxelon doing a massive amount of damage, but it will not be enough as Space Station Gaming do a great job to win that fight, and now they're desperately trying to hold off this third party.
Yeah, we saw the receiving end of that battle, but Space Station absolutely putting the puzzle pieces together to play that so well. We'll have to see if we can get a replay because, like you said, they did perfect there, but they have to worry about NRG on the other side of the rock.
Well, Nathan's taken some damage here, and you would say if they've managed to get back up that there might be an advantage initially to SSG as they had the armors, but it doesn't matter because NRG sweep them aside almost too easily for my personal opinion. SSG just caught on that third party, but NRG, I mean, continuing the form we saw yesterday, just dominant in that fight.
And yeah, and how often do we see NRG timing that perfectly? No, they could have gotten involved much earlier. A little bit less disciplined teams might have gotten involved a bit earlier, try to get even more KP out of that situation, but instead you see NRG last team in, they play that perfectly, and they're able to pick up those kills. Not even a need for a reset, like you said, making it look too easy.
Well, Lonely Fans trying to push in now, maybe trying to pick up some subscriptions if they can manage to win this bubble fight. At the moment, it's looking a little bit messy. Lonely Fans, unfortunately, looking like they're not going to be able to get the productivity they would have wanted out of that fight. They will fall bottom 20, holding down the center of Harvester once again. They've been here for pretty much the entirety of this game, and now you're going to see the push coming in here from NRG. It's kicking off in and around Harvester.
Yeah, it really is getting busy here with just 6 squads left. Unfortunate exit there for Lonely Fans. Going to need the subscriptions, like you said, if they want to get through the rest of this day. But keeping an eye on Vibes, TSM, Cruelty, NRG, HRN, bottom 20 are your top 6.
I mean, that's a very familiar story from what we saw yesterday, and now TSM trying to hold this team out as well. Going to force the ult coming out of Caustic as well, so that gas isn't going to be able to push onto them to do them damage. Horizon going to use her Q to get up into the skies as well, and you can see that Reps is just beaming people. He's skeet shooting at the moment here on World's Edge. Manages to get that knock, and you can see Snipe down poking as well, doing a great amount of damage for TSM.
Yeah, there are times when that Horizon Q can be really effective. One of those times is not when you have TSM only about 30 meters away and beaming players out of the sky, as we take a look back here at Vibes, just trying to reset a bit.
The Vibes managing to actually manage to get back to a 3-person complement here. Getting that res off, even though TSM had done that damage. Now TSM have to be very wary of the fact that there is Vibes behind them, and they're going to have to try and wipe the team in front of them as quickly as possible. They do get the initial knock, but NRG also involved in a fight here, and they will wipe another team here. NRG flying through this lobby at the moment. You can see 3 kills for Nathan, 5 assists for him as well. A couple of those would have come from the scans. But I mean, NRG, TSM, both looking so dominant in this game one.
Yeah, they really are, and that was going to be at the end. We saw a few teams pushing up there, but bottom 20 was one of them that just pushed on NRG, and we saw them in the feed going down, so they will exit. I think that was all players. We'll have to get final confirmation here with now just 4 squads left. Yes, indeed, it's Vibes, TSM, NRG, and HRN, as that was bottom 20, that last team at more Central Harvester going up against it. NRG.
We have 3 teams who managed to win a game yesterday. Unfortunately, HRN didn't quite get that win. Came incredibly close with that crazy Pathfinder play coming out of Euris, but just not enough to clutch that 1v1. And now you're seeing NRG moving into prime position here. The control of this rock is massive for any team, as this is where you believe, or I believe personally, that the ring will be ending, when the zone will be ending Round 5 is closing in now, and you can see the Vibes are actually making a move here. Sweet's going to be taken down, and NRG, who are looking comfortable for just a second, all of a sudden have sat down somewhere where maybe the seat is missing a cushion because they're getting knocked left, right, and center. And now Vibes trying to change their attentions here to TSM, who are inside of this building. Those caustic barrels are going to make it very difficult for TSM to rotate out.
Yeah, absolutely, and a really wise decision there. Even though they did get that full kill on Sweet, instead they go all the way back, using that Horizon Q to angle themselves away and just try to win this battle instead.
Vibes doing a great job here to do a huge amount of damage, taking control of the height here as well. Actin taken down to 0 HP, though. Snipe down pokes out through the zone to get the knock as well. So TSM, with that knock, may now have an opportunity to push out. However, you saw the caustic ult coming in as well. Going to be blocking one of those exits, and now you're going to see How having to make the play here to try and sneak out through the zone, but he's going to take so much damage doing that.
Cheeky backdoor plays from Hal and Snipe down. You can see how risky that play is, because even with a poke that was only lasting a few seconds, like you said, they're forced to pop heals right away because of how much damage was ticking off. But that was a huge play from TSM. 3 squads left.
Yeah, NRG right now are helping out TSM because they're pushing onto Vibes outside here, and you can see with the Prowler in hand as well, this should be easy pickings for Rocker. Manages to knock one, and Nathan will pick up the other as well. And even though they lost Sweet in that initial fight, they come back as a 2-man and do a huge amount of damage. 1 player alive here for Vibes. It's going to be Voltic, who's trying to pop some meds to get back up and maybe be an awkward customer to deal with, as we have NRG, a 2-man, TSM inside of the building, and the last player alive from Vibes.
I was going to say the same thing. You're going to have to wonder how much of a nuisance Voltic is going to be here. This, of course, is essentially a straight 3v3 with the big variable of however Voltic plays this.
Well, Rocker's going to be taken down. It's Snipe down and Reps combining. How's coming in from behind as well. A clean wipe here for TSM. Once again, the bubble from Reps, absolutely superb, and giving them the foothold that they needed to close out that game. TSM, who seemed to be in the disadvantageous position, turn it into an advantage and will wipe the lobby away in our game number 1. Or game number 7, game number 1 of the day, Andy.
Yeah, game number 1 of the day, game number 7 overall in this North American semifinal. But I stand corrected. Voltic was not the factor. Instead, we just see TSM fly right up and try to make something happen off of the break. And then Voltic actually going to sneak out a second placement there. We'll have to see exactly how all the points go out as we take a look at some of the highlights from our first game of the day.
Yeah, great stuff here from Vibes early on, picking up those kills. And of course, Vibes made their way inside of that top 3 as well. But CLG's bubble fighting, I mean, bubble fighting in general has become such a huge part of Apex Legends, just dipping in and out of that Gibraltar shield, hitting those shots, whether it would be with an automatic or those shotguns, those big hits that you will get to get those knocks and get those shield breaks, is a great example of how to be effective from not only CLG, but we saw TSM right at the end there as well. I mean, every single team now has to be so proficient in so many different things to be successful in Apex, Andy.
Absolutely. As you take a look at these final moments here with NRG holding that height, and it's the way that TSM was able to come right up there, and it just felt like they were so coordinated. I'm gonna have to watch that back, just because the way that they took that straight 3v3 before Volta could even get involved, it once again just made it look a little bit too easy at the end of the game. But it's a great push from them. They've got to be feeling really good and doing even more than picking up where they left off. I would say on set they're even looking maybe even a little bit tighter.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they played that absolutely perfectly. And even though they were in a position where you were thinking for a second, myself included, you know, how did TSM get out of this? They might manage to find a way to get out of that situation. Once again, Reps with an incredible Gibraltar dome to get them into that position to actually fight with a little bit of cover. Amazing stuff from TSM, who will win your game number 7. It's time for us to go to break while we tally up the scores. But don't worry, plenty more Apex coming your way in the GLL Masters Spring. Once again, you lovely, lovely people, it is, of course, the GLL Masters Spring. And what a game 1 we just saw coming out of Team Solo Mid. Continuing that fine form we saw from them yesterday, Andy. A dominant win from them. Great decision-making. Everything, once again, perfect. But one thing I want to highlight a little bit before we get into our next game is how Gibraltar has kind of evolved as a character in Apex Legends. We love to see the evolution of meta, how players adapt and change and use different things in different ways. And I think the Gibraltar Dome is a great example of that, with how it initially was used by edge teams, right? To be defensive, to wait and find an opening to get into zone. But now it is as much of an offensive weapon as it is a defensive one.
Yeah, we saw some really great examples of that. One is certainly just when we saw CLG coming down Mine Pass heading south. The fact that Lou's able to just chuck that out and they just have that opening battle. EVA 8s are out and they're ready to go. That was a really great example. Of course, TSM's push as well. And I think it's even worth noting that in a lot of ways, that Gibby Dome even has this role where it's not offensive or defensive, but it's even a route traversal that we see all the time now, replacing when you might need something like a Wraith Portal to get, for example, building to building in Geyser. You are just going to dome right in the middle perfectly and fly right through, or teams during the Winter Circuit pushing into the back thermal buildings. A lot of uses now that Gibby is more in the meta that we're seeing for that dome.
Yeah, it really is showing his worth as a character, and Rep's doing a great job of showcasing some of the things that Gibraltar can offer to a composition. And that means that Team SM, or Team Solo Mid, are kind of combined the two of them there, will take home that first place. Of course, 8 points for kills for them as well, 20 points in total. NRG in second place, Vibes in third, and I'm just looking down at the bottom there. Sentinels, not the start they would have wanted, 20th place, and then Peanut Butter Sandwiches once again 11th place, but Space Station at least getting inside of that top 10 and managing to get some points on the board here.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think in terms of storylines that we're tracking, it's a little bit of the same. The teams that we're worried about, we're still worried about, and the teams that have been performing are still performing. So just like you said, Onset, it's picking up from where we did yesterday. But speaking of, let's take a look at the overalls as well.
I mean, TSM, 91 points on the board. They are safe. You would imagine now, even with 5 games to go, they will be qualifying for the finals. The same could probably be said right now about CLG and NRG. HRM, potentially, if they keep that kind of form up, no one's going to be stopping them. But I was worried about Sentinels coming into today, and they have slipped outside of that top 10. And now they have Space Station breathing down their neck. And Peanut Butter Sandwiches, even though they were 11th, and even though they picked up a few points in that last game, it wasn't a huge amount, have snuck inside of the top 10 now.
Absolutely, and that's going to be even tighter with those teams. It's interesting because I was actually thinking the same thing when we saw Sentinels exit. My first thought was Space Station's going to be very happy to see a team like that that's at the bottom of the top 10 dropping out that early, and here they are now, only a few points away from Sentinels, as you pointed out, Onset. So definitely a battle that we're going to be keeping an eye on. Let's see, Space Station's dropping at Fisher as well, so we'll keep an eye on exactly how they play this one. And it's not too far for all the way from, if we think about Sentinels and the rotations they need to make. But we should talk about that too, because that's the first time we've seen the teams in weeks need to make a central move like that, just because we've been all Eastern all day yesterday. So that was really the first time that we saw teams come all the way towards Harvester. So that's like a new set of battles for this specific lobby.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we get any Western circles today as well, so that teams like Space Station, who drop on the very west side of World's Edge, will have a little bit of advantage as far as their rotation distance is concerned. But we're going to continue with TSM here. Why would we not? Top of the leaderboards, looking dominant, winning the first game of today, the 7th game overall of the semi-finals. And it's difficult to find anything negative to talk about with TSM with the way that they've played, not only today, but yesterday as well, Andy.
It really is, and they get scarier the more points they have on the board, because like we said, TSM historically in ALGS play, they'd come oftentimes into a day 2 in something like the bottom 10, which was so strange to see, but sure enough, they would string together amazing performances to have a Herculean effort to fight back into the action. Instead, now they have this huge cushion with 91 points on the board, so I'm even more worried about what we'll see from them, because they can afford to play so aggressive, make ridiculous plays, and I would not be surprised to see it. Beacon right away for snipe down, going to have that dome for the protection of that information. They're going to know where they need to go right away, and I'm expecting another fast move from them as we're actually heading a little bit towards the west.
Yeah, an interesting circle, this one. You can see the beacon lighting up on your screens at home. You've got staging involved, you've got Harvester involved, and you've also got Thermal Station, the actual train station itself, potentially involved in where that ring could pull. So it's going to be interesting to see where teams actually try and locate themselves here, Andy, because you could imagine it might be finishing maybe just outside of the tracks, just on the bend there that you can see between Thermal Station and staging. But for teams like NRG, they're going to be very, very comfortable playing this location.
Oh, without a doubt. Onset, that's a great call you make, because the final circle that you just mentioned actually was our Game 2 end circle for the ALGS Winter Circuit playoffs, and that was a TSM second place. They lost to KSZ there, but you'll remember TSM was able to get a really nice finish there, but they haven't left Frag East just yet, so they are not on the double in this one, instead deciding to make sure that they get the right looting and take a little bit of a different path than what we've seen from the last 2 games, as we take a look here at where they're still hanging out around, and you're seeing all the way in the distance as well. Crummy still over there by Overlook.
Snipedown's probably looking for a stock or something, is what he likes to do. I know it gets on Hal's nerves sometimes. I'm joking, Eric. I've known you a long time. I'm allowed to take the mick out of you sometimes, okay? He's going to manage to get a blue armor. And I mean, armor-wise, coming out of Fragment East, you got to be very happy with purple on 2 blues. I think TSM sometimes with that central location have to work with those white armors and have to, you know, work with what they're given, because it isn't the highest loot table in the game as far as drops is concerned. But coming out, those armors, very happy for TSM.
And here goes Sentinels on that route. They've already made it all the way through, and they made it quickly, because if you just saw back on the ops cam, they were still looting. They had not ballooned yet, but now they've gone very quickly all the way skirting across this northern side of Harvester to try to get into that high ground area that we referenced earlier.
We'll have to see if Sentinels can follow up what was a disappointing game with a banger game, which they seem to do at the moment. It's one or the other for Sentinels, and you would expect them to be able to put together a performance with the experience that they do have on their side, especially in the likes of Senox and Retzi, to crawl their way back inside of that top 10. But Lonely fans now having a little bit of a scan as well with the crypto drone, just seeing what areas play, what locations they might try and move their bodies to and make themselves comfortable once more. You can see a couple of teams being pinged as well here by Blueberry Smalls, which I must say, I love some of the names we see in Apex Legends. There's also, I love Frax beaming people with the 301. Doesn't get the knock, but does a heck of a lot of damage.
There's no greater signal that maybe I should go back inside than a 301 hitting like that. And just maybe it's safer indoors as we take a look back again, once again with Sentinels.
Yeah, Sentinels were the team on the receiving end of that 301 spray, but no knock in place, and now they will be safe inside of this building. The only thing with the composition that they are running, there isn't really a way of defending these doors without, for example, caustic barrels, for example, Watson fences. I mean, we haven't seen Watson in play for a long time. Unfortunately, she is taking a back seat in competitive Apex for some time. So it's not going to be an easy hold here, but great news for Sentinels. They've made a quick rotation, even quicker than we saw in that game number 1, and they've managed to get into position that they wanted to find.
I was going to say, Onset, based on your circle call, you got to be pretty happy with that positioning for them in terms of where they are right now, and you have a feeling that they're going to be pretty happy about it too. TSM has made their way through that central choke as they make their way onto Harvester. You also still have PB Sandwiches still looting at Thermal, taking that route from Tree into Thermal to see what might have still been left over by the likes of Panzer 6 and Metro Gadget. As we take a look maybe at a potential Harvester battle, we'll have to see if Blueberry Smalls and crew might run into TSM.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to run into TSM at the moment. Every single player seems to be hitting shots, whether it's snipe down beaming people, whether it's reps beaming horizons out of the sky, it doesn't matter. Every single player on TSM is shooting incredibly well at the moment and working together and showing the chemistry that we would expect from a lineup like this. They look like they're going to be happy with this location inside of Harvester as well, where they can kind of hedge their bets on where that next ring might be going. But look at this, CLG trying to make a rotation here. Madness putting down that portal, seeing if that building was free. But as we know, and we caught just a few moments ago, Sentinels already at home there.
Yeah, and Madness, one of the few wraiths still in the game. It's great to watch just because the way that he's still using that wraith for those little more aggressive ports and using them not only to scout but also really to see if there are any openings created. And with the less and less wraiths that we're seeing markedly less wraith play than even the ALGS Winter Circuit playoffs, which, like we said yesterday, were right around 85% pick rate for wraith. Of course, in this event for North America in the semifinals, it has been a much lower rate. So still relying on that wraith is CLG, and taking over, of course, all 20 squads still in the match.
Yeah, it looks like CLG couldn't get what you would define as the A spot. They're having to retreat and find their secondary spot, which is going to be just outside of that underpass, the Vault underpass between Train and Harvester. We're seeing a little bit of fighting going down right now, and unfortunately for this team, just on the outside is looking like bad news for them. Hill's going to be rotating through the tunnel as well, maybe thinking that he can get involved, but it's NRG who are on the prowl at the moment, and unfortunately for NRG, it looks like Sweet might have had to not been able to connect to this game. So Rocker and Nathan trying to get aggressive, and unfortunately for Nathan, he will be met with some bullets to the chest, and the Wraith will go down. Rocker now. He's going to be playing Watson. Hey, it's almost as if I called that, right? I said Watson out of the meta for a while. All of a sudden, Watson's going to be picked, but I wonder if that was because Sweet couldn't load in for some reason.
Yeah, all of a sudden right back in, but like you said, an unfortunate scenes. Not sure exactly what the situation was there for NRG as they try to make something happen, but things already getting spicy right around the tracks on set, as you predicted, as teams are going to start to try to hold these areas as best that they can as we take a look at HRN.
I mean, look at this composition that HRN are running today. They ran it yesterday. This is something we don't see a lot, right? You've got Hill, who's playing on the Gibby. You've also got the defensive capabilities of Caustic as well. 126 with the Sentinel, by the way. RKN, good morning. And then Yuri's playing the Pathfinder, giving them that rotational option. I kind of like this. It's Wraithless, it's Horizonless, and it's also Octaneless. You've got Pathfinder filling that void as a rotational character.
Absolutely, a very unique comp, and great to see, like you said, that type of variety. It's not even really on our list of kind of defensive-minded, offensive-minded. It sits in its own category compared to the rest of the comps that we've seen over the past few weeks in competitive Apex. Now taking a look at Space Station.
Yeah, Space Station trying to melt this team who are being forced into the bubble. It's going to be a defensive bombardment coming down as well, and Space Station should have, you would imagine, some easy kills here as Zeratricky will go down. Clarify trying to move in as well, as the end of the portal will be watched, and that will be a clean wipe here for Space Station. Big kills for them as we lose our first two teams now. But Frex is continuing to try and finish off Mr. Herculo as well, and it looks like SSG, even though they've just won that fight, they want to find some more players to engage with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be, if they get that last one, trying to get this last wipe on the player there on West Side, that will be now all three down. As you see, West Side will be exiting there. West Side actually with a drop, I believe, yes, they've been dropping in Skyhook, so they had to take that route all the way down through Fisher. You have to think eventually, as SSG eventually came down towards these chokes, that they might eventually run into Space Station Gaming with their Fisher drop, and that's exactly what we saw.
So a good start here for Space Station, not only in that game number 1 where they managed to get inside of the top 10, but also in this game number 2 as well. Hello, Watson. How are you doing? We have missed you. It's great to see you once more. That's all I have to say on the matter.
I was going to say, when I don't even
It's
know
like
what
a throwback
Watson,
tournament, doesn't it?
The Watson pick rate, I believe in ALGS Winter was a 0. Right? It was a 0 pick rate across both NA and EU. So this is truly the first time we're seeing Watson in a while.
I mean, she looked lonely as the last
she
player
really
alive,
did.
and I mean, probably feeling lonely as far as a pick rate is concerned.
If I've learned anything from living in San Francisco, it's when you see someone alone in a cargo container, you generally don't engage.
Don't approach. Yeah, especially if they're surrounded by electric fences.
You let it be. You let it be.
Sentinel's still looking extremely comfortable inside of that building at the moment, but nobody else really. This is an interesting zone for me. I think we'll see a lot of teams die when this zone does close, just because of the fact that, as you can see, not a lot of areas to actually play outside of Harvester. You've got TSM in there at the moment. You've got TC in there as well. Another team that's just hovering under that I can't make out because my eyes are terrible. But Pandas and Metro the Goat are also making their way through the choke, and there's gonna be deaths because there's gonna be teams running into each other around these chokes areas. Speaking of which, now you can see that My Little Phony and Outcast Gaming look like they might be meeting head to head here as they meet through the tunnel.
And looks like shots already being exchanged, like you said, and we'll have to see how this one's gonna end out because the bubble's already down on one.
That bubble is going to allow them to escape, though, for the moment. So even though they look like those two teams were going to engage, the bubble gave them that cover. Once again, Gibraltar's bubble showing how effective it can be and a defensive capability there to give them that cover to get away from the situation and live to fight another day. You can see the Rocket is still alive. Watson is still with us, still involved in the game, which is be interesting if we get to that end zone and she starts throwing some fences down. It's so strange how much Apex Legends has changed. We go back to the early days, and I'm reminiscing a little bit here. You'll have to indulge me for a second, but we had fences inside that final zone. You had those wraith portals down. It's a lot easier to follow these days with that change to the final zone.
Oh, it absolutely is. It is probably the most significant change to the, if you look at the entirety of Apex gameplay over those first 2 years, now just a little bit over 2 years, without a doubt the biggest change. But as you alluded to, we've had some legend changes as well. More shots cast here on top tracks.
Yeah, Crispy Bay can do a good job to land these shots and just try and create an opening. If they could get a 60-70 spray, it might give them the opportunity to push. And now Rocket, very quiet here. So quiet that my noise gate almost didn't pick up my voice. And it looks like Outcast Gaming know there's someone there. And all Rocket's decided that he's going to peace out.
Yeah, it looks like Defeated doesn't want any bit of that either. He's going to stem right back and then keep his crosshairs on those crates, wondering, I'm pretty sure I heard someone, but probably not aware that it was an NRG solo Watson, which would be a whole series of surprises all at once. Maybe a bit too much to take on in a single moment.
Yes, completely overwhelmed, emotionally, physically, everything. Well, the ring's going to be closing in around 5 seconds. You can see that Outcast Gaming are safe for now, but they're going to have a tough rotation as, hey, it's not the only solo player that we have alive in the lobby. We also have a Bloodhound who's crouching in a corner and trying to feel very comfortable. RCO Esports and Holiday going to be the last player alive here. And a difficult couple of days and first couple of games here for RCO Esports once more, and with white armor to play with, it's not really something to play with, is it? To be honest with you, it's kind of just like survival here for RCO Esports.
And I wanted to bring that up actually on set because as I was taking a look at yesterday's VODs, and I think a lot of you might have called well, RCO's rotations out of Dome have been so tough because they have to essentially choose who they want to go through, either PB, B20, Sentinels, or HRN, just to get out. I mean, going from west to east, that's Tree, Launch Site, Sorting, and Lava City. You've also got Cool Cats in that mix as well. So their rotations out of Dome in a lobby like this have been so difficult.
Well, we're going to see a fight go down, and CLG and Vaxon especially done a fantastic job. Multiple things to talk about in just a second when this fight does come to its conclusion. They're trying to hold this team out. As you can see, Lou's going to get the armor swap. Looks like the team inside are going to be forced to retreat for just a few moments, but Lou loves to get aggressive on Gibraltar. If he can land some damage, then you will see that Dome go down almost immediately, but it looks like a bit of a change of plan here for CLG. They don't want to take this fight. They want to play a little bit smarter. They back up now, but just to back up on what I was saying a few moments ago, Vaxon, excuse me, did so much there that maybe didn't appear to the naked eye initially. Not only did he destroy that Horizon ult before it took any kind of effect stopping those nades, he also then scanned behind to make sure that if they took that fight, that there wasn't a third party waiting around the corner. So many things went in there without a bullet being shot in anger from Vaxon that need to be appreciated.
Oh, absolutely. Every little detail. I couldn't agree more. And also, I'm pretty impressed there with CLG because, as we've said, they're a team that tends to skew more aggressive. And if there's any advantage opportunity, they're going to go ahead and take it. And you have to think that they maybe might have thought against Smooth Bananas. They could have taken that raw 3v3, even though they had to turn that corner and make the left. Certainly an opportunity to have bubble fought that. But instead, they played disciplined. And you saw the pinks coming in. And instead, they're going to play the height here. So CLG, kind of like you had said on set in our game 1 today, game 7 overall, that they're really showing that they're able to do it all. Get you a team that does it all.
Now Lou trying to get a little bit aggressive here, just walking out with that Gibraltar shield up and trying to get a little bit of poke damage, maybe thinking about trying to get some damage onto Sentinels or My Little Phony, who are just located below them. The CLG completely controlling this high ground. I think they're going to be very comfortable as well, as you'll be able to see there isn't any teams rotating behind them at this point. Lonely Fans, though, and a little bit of a shaky time inside a Harvester last time we were on board with them, and it looks like at the moment they're trying to work their way through with some shots being exchanged with the team on the southern tower inside of Harvester, and Outcast Gaming, who we saw just a few moments ago inside of the tunnel, now making their rotation as well towards these crates.
Yeah, they made their move. Lonely Fans still contesting with not just TSM, but it looks like even more teams in Harvester as we take a look back at that close, and going to start to see things get a little bit quicker now.
Yeah, the zone closing behind Outcast Gaming here, so they are at a massive disadvantage. Even with the bubble going down, they're just going to be taking so much damage from the zone, and Defeated will be the first player to go down. They are being held out in the strongest, most horrible way here by HRN. Urice, excuse me, gets that first knock onto Defeated. Crispy Bacon manages to get some shields up, but unfortunately, there's a Pathfinder in your face, and he's going to finish off the kills.
And you had to think as soon as you saw that zone to the edge and the fact that it was HRN on the other side, that HRN was going to come out on top, and that's exactly what they did. They played it cool, they played it calm, they got that first pick, and then after that, let the zone do a lot of the work for them as we check back in with TSM still playing low here on this door.
Yeah, Snipedine just became the kill leader as well, so managed to get a pick somewhere along the way. TSM will be safe for now, but they will have to move. As you can see, CLG still controlling that high ground. It looks like Madness and Lou are trying to get involved in a little scuffle here with TC, who are just down below them in that snake building. So they've got to kind of decide here, who do they want to focus their attention on? Is it going to be TC, who are down inside of the snake, or is it going to be TSM, who are in that bottom building inside of Harvester?
Certainly, and if we know one thing about CLG, it's they're going to be very intentional about this decision and not allow themselves to get split, because even though they have this great position on height that we've seen bring so many successes in Apex competitive matches, they know as soon as they get too tangled up in that low battle that there's going to be an opportunity for teams to come up right to that height right away. So expect them to, once they get the right damage, to commit.
The CLG just scanning the area at the moment, trying to show as much presence as they can on this high ground, something they did so well yesterday, just making sure that they're within striking distance of each other should a team or a player get pushed, but also making sure that they're giving as much presence as they can on different teams, getting shots down when required. Lou now getting aggressive once again, trying to throw that bubble in. And you can see Madness has got the Eva 8 in hand as well. Lou now having to back out of this situation. It looks like a change of mind here coming in from Counter Logic Gaming, but they're going to be able to retreat because Vaxon was holding down this high ground.
Yeah, I like Vax staying up top. Really nice play here. And that's what I love to see from CLG. And I feel like more and more on set, they're one of the fewer teams that is making plays like that, where both players drop. Lou makes sure he gets the second bubble, and they stay up top, and they nope out of it. But now look at all the damage they're getting now.
Yeah, doing such a great job here, just beaming down. Lou gets the knock on to Scissors as well. RKN's involved as well, and it looks like TSM in a bit of bad shape at the moment, and it looks like CLG are going to try and compile the misery as well. Shots coming in from Lou with that flatline are going to be hitting hard, but this is the moment here for CLG. The portal going down once again, and this is where they have been so good. Madness's portals in towards these final zones have won them games.
Absolutely, and like we said, with less and less rates in these lobbies, the portal's shining even more, and you're seeing Madness not waste any time in a situation like that. By the time you even recognize that a play could be ready, it feels like Madness has already set at least 50% of that portal. Now they're going to reset just a little bit here, as they know there are going to be even more teams. 9 squads left.
Yeah, Madness is popping off at the moment. Lou's doing great damage with the flatline in hand, but every time I look at the kill feed, it seems to be Madness that's popping up left, right, and center, just beaming people. And there's another example with 6-6 on the board for him. Unfortunately for CLG, Vaxlon will get knocked, but they'll manage to get him back up to his feet. And Urice as well in the kill feed once more. The Pathfinder still showing that he's got what it takes.
Yeah, need to be careful here. Lou actually does go down after all that. He makes sure to get the teammates up, but Vaxlon's going to go down, so it's all going to be up to Madness on that other side, but back over to HRN. Look at those shots here as we have 7 squads left.
Yeah, Urice is dominating in this game. He's got 2 kills to his name. He's got 2 assists. Although that might not seem like the craziest amount of statistics, he is doing a lot of damage. You can see 1,200 damage at the hands and at the gun of the Pathfinder. And now you can see in the team tracker, Counter Logic Gaming have been eliminated. TSM out just a few moments ago. NRG out as well. So a big opportunity here for the likes of Sentinels and Space Station to put the points on the board that they've been looking for throughout day 1 and day 2 as well.
Definitely take a look at that team tracker. There's several teams in here that we've been talking about as teams that are in desperate need of points. A lot of the heavy hitters have left this lobby already. This is a big moment here in match number 8 for all these teams that are anywhere near that bubble.
SSG is denial. You can see him clarifying. Frex will be just behind, controlling those tracks, and we're also going to be Frex lasering people with the 301. The Gibby Dome will go down just to give that team a little bit of survivability, but that's going to be exchanged as well with a Gibby bubble of their own. And now SSG doing everything they can to hold out their backs here. All of the action starting to go down as we have 7 squads remaining.
Perfect timing from Clarify on that bubble. Did so much more work than maybe even he knew that it was going to do, keeping Frex alive in that situation, as Frex is doing everything he can to hold down this.
I mean, Frex is doing an incredible job here. You can see he hasn't got any shields to work with. He's on flesh at the moment. Unfortunately, pops that battery, which is going to give the team that were pushing the opportunity to clean things up. And once again, it's bottom 20 who come in to clean up, but that just gives the opportunity to Smooth Bananas, who have been down at the bottom of the leaderboards, to move in. Mumscott, unfortunately, having cleaned things up, will now be taken out, and it's My Little Phony who finally come in. And this is carnage around this train car. You can see HRN now making their move. We're down to our final 3 squads.
I was going to say HRN also part of the party here as they're getting in. They're trying to push the end of this train car. They have a little bit of height in their...
Urice now pushing in, who has been dominating, but here comes Sentinels. They have been in the prime position for all of this game, and it looks like the team who have seesaw performances so far over the last couple of days will step up and be at their heights that we would expect from them. Sentinels take home game number 2, continuing their narrative of 0 points or all the points. It's as simple as that for Sentinels. A great performance from them in the game 8. I got my numbers right in our semifinals.
Not only did you get your numbers right, but you got that Sentinels call right on set. You called it at the beginning of the game. You said it is do or die for these guys, and they tend to either be, I should say, they tend to be quite a binary team. It's breakout performances like that, or it is very low scoring games. Sometimes 3 points or less from them even, and they come out here strong. But we'll take a look at some highlights from the entire match first.
Yeah, Urice just seemed to do work every single time that we were on board with him. You see him jumping in here as the Pathfinder and managing to just catch everybody off surprise. TSM, early game from them, very good once more. We saw Snipe down at one point, was the kill leader. Unfortunately, they fell, I think, just outside of the top 10. CLG doing everything they could, and in the end, unfortunately for CLG, they were kind of just caught between numerous teams who were rotating in a little bit later than they were. They tried to make that early portal play, but not the cover that maybe CLG work with so well. It's just a difficult zone to try and portal into.
It really is, especially on that height. So many teams having to try to make their way up. And look at Sentinels. This tells the story. They let all those battles happen. Teams tried to get up there early, but when you have enough teams that are trying to get those carts early, it can really backfire for those early squads. And look at that. Sentinels comes in and they clean up shop. And you could just tell based on that third-person cam that they were going to come in and wipe, because a lot of those battles happened maybe just even 10 seconds earlier than they perhaps needed to based on those rotations. And it just kind of left all the pickings there for Sentinels at top tracks.
Yeah, I think it's the first two games have been a great example of some of the intangibles of Apex Legends, is how close the success and a lack of success can be. It can be the difference of a second, of 2 seconds. Go back to that first game we had of the day where Sentinels were maybe a second too slow on their rotation. The difference between game two, they get there first, they get that spot. So great performance, a bounce back performance from Sentinels in our game 8. We're going to go for a break now, but don't worry, there's so much more to come. 4 more games to bring you. We'll see you in just a sec. Welcome back, everybody, to the GLL Masters Spring, and what a first 2 games of the day we have had, bravo. I mean, Sentinels bouncing back from a disappointing game 1 and then just rocking it in game number 2. TSM with the win in the first game of the day, and that is going to shift our leaderboards around. That is a performance that Sentinels desperately needed.
Yeah, a lot of the heavy hitters you saw absent from that final team tracker in that end circle, and in a way that we really haven't seen in the GLL Masters Spring. It feels like at least one of the TSM bottom 20, NRG, HRN, CLG. There's too many teams, talented teams in this lobby, but it feels like one of them has at least been in the end circle for all of these 8 games so far, and I'd be surprised if that actually wasn't the case. But if you are a Sentinels fan, your dreams have been answered. I've actually seen some Sentinels fans on the competitive subreddit just saying it's been a hard last year. So I know that you're out there, and I know that you're happy with that last result.
Oh, 100%. And as I previously said, Andy and myself are huge fans of all of these players on Sentinels. We just want to see that success that we know is around the corner for them, and I'm sure that they're desperate for it as well, as well as the fans of Sentinels are, of course. But I'm really interested to see the leaderboards as soon as we have them available, just because that game there is a big shift. Because like you mentioned, you had the likes of COG. They got towards the end game, but they didn't put up a huge amount of points. We had HRN involved as well, but TSM went out a little bit earlier. You had NRG going out earlier, and that means more points available for the teams who are chasing that top 10 placement to get into our grand finals. It could be a big shift in not only momentum, but points as well.
Absolutely. That game, I think you're pointing it out perfectly. There's more than the parts. That's not just a shakeup because a few teams placed higher. It's a shakeup because a lot of the points economy just shifted, like you said, and the fact that all of those top teams did not grab as many points as they are used to grabbing, and not even any of them, really lets the entire pack just inch up just a bit. So like you said, the overall leaderboards might have shifted a little bit, and if we have even another game that comes close to that, things could get really interesting and dicey for our final few games.
Yeah, we've had 2 fairly central zones as well, which is always great to see, and it gives teams a fairly equal rotation on how they've got to make their way towards that zone, and they can battle it out on an even playing field. And it was Sentinels who took home that game 1 as far as a placement was concerned, but only 3 kills to the board means that they will get 15 points in total and actually be second behind HRN. And I had a feeling that they were popping off in that game, and it is backed up with that 11 kills for them. But Space Station, massive from them. 3rd place is going to be huge. 11 points on the board for them. TSM down in 8th. Good points on the board as far as kills are concerned. CLG inside of that top 10. Looking the other side, though, NRG outside, Outcast Gaming and Vibes down at the bottom, which is a little bit of a surprise. They've been very good, but Peanut Butter Sandwiches, now they've got Sentinel syndrome when they need a big game, and games are starting to run out now, Andy.
They really are. And then the question is what teams are going to be able to step it up. Let's take a look at the overalls as well, and let's take a look how things have settled out.
Yeah, HRN in 2nd place with 87 points. They'll overtake CLG now, only the 1 point between them, but Space Station Gaming with that performance still not inside of the top 10, and Peanut Butter Sandwiches just behind them as well. But like you mentioned, points economy, very important from that last game. Vibes, who did not pick up a single point, who were probably feeling very, very confident. All of a sudden now, even though they've got 58 points on the board, they are just 20 points away from those teams in 11th and 12th chasing. So it's really getting tight here, but a big performance from Sentinels. They're back inside that top 10, and they've got a little bit more of a cushion than they did have previously.
Yeah, Sentinels looking kind of a little bit of a reset for them. They got back to where they had been at the end of the day yesterday, but man, is this ever going to get for comfort for a lot of these teams on set? This is a lot tighter than you'd expect for our final 3 games, but we should also check in with our Group 2 leaderboard as well.
Yeah, I said season, excuse me, at the top of the leaderboards there, just continuing their fine form, complexity right in behind them as well, and a lot of kills to go alongside it. KS said again, big kills from them as well in third place. Good to see those boys stepping up once again and continuing their form. But Team Liquid, Andy, and Solar Fide, with only 4 games remaining outside of that top 10.
And Obey Alliance too, a little bit maybe less of a surprise than those 2 names, but yes, the other side, the bottom 10 of this table looking very surprising. And I think anyone who is an Apex fan who watched, I don't even know if you even had to watch the Winter Circuit, you wouldn't bet that Team Liquid and Solar Fide would be outside of the top 10 with only 3 games remaining. So if you're able to pop open a second window, definitely try to catch some streams from that group as well, because that looks like it's heating up as well. That would be an absolutely huge upset for either of those teams to not make it through, not only based on where they placed in the Winter Circuit and how talented we simply know them to be, but teams that also were really strong in the quarterfinals as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed how tight that leaderboard is as well. One big game for any team and can propel them inside of those top 10 qualification spots. So Group 2 looking a little bit spicy, a little bit scary, depending on what side of that 10th place you are. But we're moments away from getting back into our next game of the day. And speaking of moments, I mean, it's even quicker than that. And look at that. Great stuff from GLL, getting these games rolling, getting these games going. And it's going to be Sentinels who we start off with here. A massive performance. And to be honest, a performance they needed in that second game of the day. And now as we move into our third game of the day, of course, it's going to be game number 7, 8, 9, game number 9 of 12. They're going to look to continue that form. It feels like they found a bit of a rhythm.
Certainly, and not only that, not only do they need the points on the board to get themselves back into 8th, but they certainly needed the momentum, right? We talk about just how talented these players are and how the placements that the Sentinels players have had, right? They're not used to being in these placements. When we talk about the fact that Sentinels got 18th place at the Winter Circuit playoffs, that just doesn't add up when you look at the talent on this roster. We've kind of talked about that almost too much here as we take a look once again here at the zone, actually heading not too far away from our last poll, but we are headed west once again.
This is looking like a potential staging finish, maybe on the building just outside to the west of staging as well. So NRG going to be very, very comfortable here. They're going to be at home for quite some time. SSG, one of those teams who are desperate to get inside of that top 10 as well. They've got a very easy rotation to make as well. So great news for the teams who are on the western side of the map. And I jumped into Sweet's stream early and he was saying they were very happy with their performance yesterday, considering the fact that every single zone was on the east side of the map. He also kind of had a little bit of a jibe and said, you know, we got a little bit of flack because obviously we won playoffs and every single zone was to the western side, but he was the fact that they proved that they could do it on the east side of the map as well.
Okay, I think we just saw we didn't see it, but Outcast just got, I'm pretty sure, wiped there in the dome. Outcast changing their drop, and they're actually going up against RCO here in the dome. RCO is actually going to go down to Cool Cats, who is also at the dome, and HRN is also pushing in on dome as well. How is that for some early game action?
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I was telling a story, and while all of this is going down, half the lobby is killing each other. We're down to 18 squads already, and HRN trying to be the 4th party involved in this fight. And unfortunately for them, I don't think they're there quite in time to make this as comfortable as they would have wanted. But when the opportunity presents itself, you have to try and take it. Arcane's gonna have his shields cracked, even with the damage that he managed to do. And Yurice, surprisingly, missing a couple of shots there, but still getting some damage done. Cool Cats, though, all of a sudden, on the back foot once more. Yurice with 1, Yurice with 2, and that is going to be 3 kills going down for HRN, 2 at the hands of Yurice. The dome is the graveyard of World's Edge right now. Everybody is 6 feet under.
It really is, and that battle, I'm surprised it took this many games for that to happen, because just to give you an idea of what the drops have been, Cool Cats has been dropping Lava City West right around the cave. HRN has been dropping Lava City every game, and we have RCO down at the dome, and Outcast Gaming, they leave their refinery drop that they've been holding for these past few games to cause all sorts of chaos and multiple third parties. But now let's take a look at things here at staging.
Ooh, a massive fight going on as well. This is Space Station Gaming and NRG, and there's 1 knock per side. So this is a massive moment, not only for NRG and the position they want to try and hold down and for the potential result of this game, but for SSG, who are one of those teams who are desperate to get inside the top 10, if they lose this fight right now, then they are in all sorts of trouble. And you can see that NRG have also managed to get their team back up to a 3-person. SSG have done well as well. So both teams retreating now, trying to reset. But look at this angle from Nathan up on the tracks. He is not letting Space Station get away.
No, he wants to make Space Station pay for what they just did there. Nathan continuing to get that angle, and Nathan's not even done yet, but we also have TSM in some action as well at the edge of the Mine Path trailer.
Well, it's going to be SSG in trouble. You can see Frex has been knocked as TSM do get the first finish onto double one negative, which is, or double O negative. Oh my God, Mark, you learned to read. But NRG now trying to hunt down this final player from Space Station Gaming, I believe. And if you're a Space Station fan, not the start you would have wanted, especially with the zone that was pinged up on the map, that western zone they would have been begging for all of day one. And with NRG getting aggressive and trying to find this last kill point, did you notice Sentinels managed to sneak into position and take home a staging?
Yeah, not surprised here as we look at 2 rank 1 pub. They're just playing across the bridge here, and they're trying to get involved in what has become now a train yard battle as well. Going to go ahead and set the portal, so they'll go ahead and heal while that's set. But CLG also fighting here just outside of train up into the upper car, so train getting really busy really fast.
Yeah, so many teams trying to rotate through from the northern side of the map, especially from Skyhook. You have the likes of CLG there. West side's going to be making that rotation as well, and Madden's going to be forced, to pop a few barriers. And look at NRG, they're just swarming at the moment. It seems like NRG have decided this is the kind of game where even though we have position over at staging, we want to push out. We want to try and catch these teams on rotation and really pick up early kill points in the game.
Onset, it's like you said, the fact that Space Station came down into bridge/Springs End area as fast as they did. Keep in mind, NRG does not just drop staging. You typically see them all the way up, swinging out, splitting that drop up into Springs End, and they loot a lot of Springs End to the west of the bridge as well. So as soon as Space Station got a little bit too close, even though they had good damage, NRG made them pay.
And it was all that angle from Nathan, I believe it was, up on those tracks, just absolutely beaming. Players, was it Rocker? Was it Nathan? My brain forgives me.
Nathan was the one with the angle on the bridge, yeah.
He was the one with an angle on the bridge, just pinning in Space Station. And even though they managed to get the res and retreat to what they might have thought was a safe area, that overextension and that angle from Nathan really did turn the tide of that fight. So a great decision from the NRG youngster to take that angle and do that damage and really pin them in. But now we're going to jump into the map overhead when you can see where that zone is going to be popping, just to remind you where these teams are going to be trying to rotate to. And it looks like CLG, I was about to say, might be down to a 2-man, and then man has popped up at the bottom of my screen and said, hey, don't worry, I'm still here.
Oh, he's here. He might not be leading the pack right here on this push, as we almost always see, but Vaxlon and Lou, they're not afraid to hold forward either. And players now, they are out for blood, and that's vibes that they're looking for and trying to eliminate on the edge of this one.
And CLG have fond memories of a fight in the last game, or our first game, excuse me, around this kind of area on the house, which is just next to the train station to their right here. Vibes is right, I should say, as they're trying to retreat back to Skyhook. It looks like they want no part of CLG, and they're going to change their rotational path completely. And this kind of thing is quite smart to do sometimes. If you feel like you're being forced into a fight through a choke, when you have time on your side, change your rotation, take a different angle of approach, and let that other team maybe be involved in a fight themselves, as NRG are again involved in a fight, and NRG again come out on top.
That's going to be actually 2 rank 1 pub, the team that we did see across not too far away from NRG, as they were trying to do a bunch of damage into train, but it looks like at the end of that, the battle will go to the likes of NRG, unsurprisingly, as they continue to put even more points on the board there.
Yeah, Nathan already on red armor, and we haven't even had round 1 close yet. I think that is a great example of how much damage Nathan has been doing in these opening battles for NRG. And then you're going to see them patrol around and maybe get eyes on another fight. And look at this. Rocker's just going to fire a little bit of a spitty shot across World's Edge and hit for 12 just to show, hey, look, I'm showing presence. Even though you're a mile away, I got Spitfire in my hands. I'm still going to show you I can hit you.
Oh, he's not. A few shots whiz by his head and miss. He's like, I'm not backing down. He's going to lay down some shots. But now as we take a look back over into the ridge, both Pathfinder on the offensive.
Pathfinder might not be saying that if they get into a fight with Urice at the moment, the way that he's been shooting, but a big knock coming in from them, and it's going to be Pathfinder. They're on the receiving end of things as well. Gibraltar defensive bombardment's going to go down. He's going to give them the opportunity to get the res and hold that push off from the outside of the building. Thirsty will be brought back to his feet, and then we'll exchange bombardments himself. But here's HRN, and hey, it's almost like I saw it coming. The story writes itself sometimes. Arcane's going to be forced to back down, though, as there are multiple teams in the vicinity here on the ridge. They have to be careful.
Yeah, HRN trying to get that advantage of that player scurrying away, but as you saw, shots coming in from their back, so they did need to play, like you said, a little bit more careful, start to get a new angle, and they do also find a Wraith trying to get away as well.
We're going to be dropping here, trying to help his teammate finish this kill. We'll do so, unfortunately, Blueberry Smalls, who does go down. No relation to Biggie. HRN now making their rotation, maybe thinking sorting factory through the tunnel. maybe just thinking, let's take our time and reroute ourselves into how we want to approach this ring while this fighting is going down. You can see that My Little Phony involved as well. Look at this rotation from CLG as well. CLG, who moments ago were in train yard, gone to the north of the map. They've worked their way through Fragment and now Loot. He's thinking about poking through this choke.
He is, and we'll have to see. It looks like right now, of course, they're going to be right on the edge and continue to play that. And they're going to be pretty happy with just really having the pick of the litter in terms of which battles they want to engage and which they don't. They're sitting right here in that ridge choke, and now they're going to be able to choose which engagement to take.
When you have so many audio cues popping off on World's Edge as well, you can kind of adapt your rotation accordingly. If there's multiple battles going down in one area, CLG would have heard that, and that's why you saw that slow, steady approach from them, just seeing if they could survey the area and decide which teams they wanted to take down, and they could get free shots on who might already be engaged in a fight. So smart play here from Counter Logic Gaming, now set up inside of this two-story building, but they do have HRN across from them. That is not an easy 3v3 fight.
Not at all. The Lou doing a bunch of damage with that scout there, eventually getting to flesh, and not surprised. HRN's like, maybe we should get out of here. Yeah, that's a big nope from us.
You can see another team going to be taking the bubble as well. Taking the balloon, excuse me.
It's late in the UK, don't worry.
It really is. It's getting on, I'm not gonna lie. It's a bubble, balloon. They both start with B, I'm close enough. But Imperial Hell now with the scout in hand and a couple of shots, and looks like TSM are playing this high ground that we saw CLG controlling so well in our last game. They are going to be trying to hold out all these teams that are going to be rotating in, and where we've seen all that fighting go down, of course, those teams are going to have to make their way towards TSM and towards staging. So a good position here for TSM to maybe pick up some KP.
Yeah, certainly. Anytime you have an end that's anything remotely like this position, of course, offers so many vantage points and cover just like this, where you can have a player like Hal with the scout just continuing to poke and be really selective with those sight lines, but just going to stem back towards the team right now. And shots are coming back, so he's actually going to pad out.
Sentinels once again taking fantastic position in this game. And the question for them, you can see Sentinel still on that white armor, which they didn't really struggle with. They had white armors, I think, when they moved, or it might have been blue when they moved into that position that they won the last game from. So they know how to win without a lot of armor to work with, but they need to get a little bit of poke damage here. And you can see that Reps from TSM having a little poke over the top of that building as well. Retzi playing the head glitch on that truck inside the staging as well. So both teams kind of posturing up, and it looks like TSM are going to change their focus of attack here, change their rotation, and change where they want to focus fire onto those teams still rotating in from Harvester.
Yeah, CLG now posting up in Harvester. Sentinels might have had someone else in staging. I thought I saw in the third-person cam for just a split second that someone else was pushing up on the outside of staging. So we'll keep an eye on that. They were not actually in the building just yet, but that's something we'll absolutely keep a very close eye on. And look at Madness in a little bit of trouble here. Needs to be careful with that portal set, but it looks like it's going to be safe, and the team will likely follow.
Oh my, I mean, it looked like it was going to be safe. Madness moves past the portal and then does not miss a single bullet with that flatline. Going to have to go back through now to pop that barrier, and it looks like CLG might be forced to take that portal if they're going to use it as bait maybe and try a different rotation in here. But Ring 2, even though that doesn't hurt too much, Ring 3 certainly does. You can see the health ticking down now. CLG going to have to be very careful here. Maybe pick up the opportunity of a team not watching their backs, and that is going to be here. They now move in. Scout shot's not going to connect. Madness in a little bit of trouble here. Lou's going to try his best to join them. They do have a few armor swaps on the outside to work with. They should be able to be safe inside of this zone.
It's plays like that from CLG where you just saw somehow absolute miracle out of the back pocket does Madness, still ports back, and then despite being so low and in danger, just flies in beams for that opening damage. Plays like that are so tough to play against, where you least expect a player to push like that, and they create an opening here. 13 squads left.
Yeah, TSM looking for that third-party opportunity as well. You see they've been watching Harvester for so long now. Tried to jump in, tried to finish off a few of those kills, but I don't think there was quite enough damage or enough knocks for them to think that we can give up this position on height and capitalize on the KP that is available. But that fight is still going on. My Little Phony now inside of the building. CLG trying to push forward. A couple of bubbles being exchanged between the two, and you can see that CLG, I don't think, are too aware that My Little Phony have moved up now, and CLG make their move. But look at that. It's just a rain of fire down from the skies. And CLG now going to have to be very careful about this red, because My Little Phony now moving in behind. Fury is the only player who manages to get up into position to get that damage down. You can see CLG still with only 2 players alive. A defensive bombardment is going to do the damage, though, and Vaxilon's going to have to peace out. CLG will be down to 1.
By the way, TSM and Sentinels were also starting to get out of there, as you saw on that ridge as well. Here's exactly how this one's going to end up. That side, just seeing a little bit of action in the kill feed here. Now taking a look once again with TSM still holding that height, but Lou gets absolutely beamed, definitely by TSM. Not sure if Sentinels was part of that as well, but tries to get up top on height, and it really bites them.
Yeah, Nathan, the kill leader in the kill feed as well. 5 kills to him. No surprise to see that. NRG really have been aggressive in this game, as we see some of the teams that have been eliminated so far. The real standout as far as the leaderboards is concerned in that top 10, Space Station Gaming once again out early. The snipe down now with the charge rifle in hand is doing big damage, and Reps is actually going to get the finish as well onto Madness from Counter Logic Gaming. A CLG in a real spot of bother here, down to a solo player that was Vaxelon. NRG now trying to get aggressive once again, but Rocket's gonna have to be careful with.
Ooh, and he actually has the bat out, has to cancel the bat for just a second, which made me nervous here, and he's actually canceled right there, so it actually bites him, and gonna be very dangerous scenes here for NRG.
Yeah, NRG, all of a sudden, the aggression's been paying off for them in this game, but they've run into someone who wants to give him a good sparring match here, and it's going to be Rocker who is finished off as well. So Nathan and Sweet will be playing as a 2-man unless they can get that banner and somehow manage to get a res off. But Sweet now going to have to hit that jump pad and try and get as close to his teammate Nathan as possible. But I like the way the NRG have approached this game. They've realized that it's all about top 10. It's not so much about winning the game for them. And I love how they've been aggressive, just work on KP and try to clear out one side of the map.
That engagement shows you just how dangerous it is. If you overextend for even a fraction of a second, it can take you out of the game in a lobby like this, and that's exactly what we just saw as we hit the 11 squads remaining now. NRG pushing in, and they got to be aware that they do have vibes to their back, and still, of course, Sentinels here holding that building as well.
So you can see a couple of teams still making a wide rotation. One of those teams is PB Sandwiches, who are making a rotation just kind of skimming the zone, which is going to be a very difficult one for them to do. Now they're going to be forced to push. You can see that they have to take this fight here, even with the ring closing behind them. There's going to be a player flying in. That's going to be the Bloodhound eliminated now. Sorcerer going to be knocked, but it will be a clean wipe from them. They have to be careful of the third party just coming around this corner. Pow with full shields, though, is going to be able to hit that scan and force that team back. So a massive play coming in from Peanut Butter Sandwiches, not just in the context of this game, but in the context of the semifinals overall.
Yeah, that was going to be bottom 20 that goes down. And keep in mind, bottom 20 has been a threat throughout this entire semifinal so far, as you'll see them exit right around 10th place here. Good news for teams that are still trying to get a lot of points on the board and make sure they stay within that top 10. Here we go now. My Little Phony going to pat in.
And some shots going to be hit with a triple take, maybe. Just having a little bit of a dance there with the player. Just locating that reticle onto his head for just a few seconds. Uris and HRN inside of these train carts now. It looks like it might be pulling away from staging slightly this circle and actually finishing up on this height on the track. So teams who are inside of staging, potentially Sentinels might have to think about making a little bit of a rotation, which will be difficult to do in these circumstances. A 108 as we catch the back end of that spray coming in from the R301 from the hands of Ak. Is it going to be enough to get the knock? But it's certainly going to force this team back.
That's what we talked about here with Vibes applying that pressure, and we've seen not only are these talented players, but we've seen them put on some big performances, including a win in this semifinal so far. So definitely a team you do not want to have at your back in a situation like this.
Nathan's death box going to be here as well. So NRG down to a solo player, and it's going to be Sweet who is the last player alive for them. Peanut Butter Sandwich is now going to be forced to make their rotation once more. The bubble will go down. Sorcerer trying to move up on this train car. This is where HRM were just a few moments ago, so they've managed to find themselves a safe spot for now inside of the zone. This is a real big opportunity here for Peanut Butter Sandwiches to put up big points on the board.
Yeah, really big. Still on that Wraith, as we see one of the few Wraiths still in these lobbies here. But HRN still at this second train cart, going to hold cover there. And now Bowser is going to be the one that maybe exchanges some shots here with Hill.
Sentinels also thinking about their move as well. You can see they've moved outside of the inside area of staging, trying to survey where they might be able to push, where a couple of fights will be going down. Either in the hands of Retzi. He's going to know how to get the damage done. Around 40 onto that player, trying to get some shots onto the player under the bridge as well. Retzi just trying to survey the area, see where those openings are for Sentinels to make their move.
Yeah, right now they're going to be really happy with how they're sitting here, just going to hold it down and hope that a lot of the action comes their way, because right now that will indeed be the case. And Sweet ratting out here and trying to have not just sweet dreams, but also a dream and a prayer to get even more points on the board.
It looks like he's going to be safe underneath all of the other teams that are above him. The question is if anyone else can locate him. That scan's going to come in and he will be highlighted. So Sweet's going to have to change position for now and maybe thinking about rotating back in a few moments time. But Sweet doing a great job to get inside of the top 8 here for NRG. And as we saw earlier, plenty of kill points for them in this game as well. So they're going to be very, very comfortable with their performance here.
Yeah, as you pointed out earlier on, so the two train car teams are here, Peanut Butter Sandwiches and HRN. They're going to be very comfortable. They're going to want to avoid engaging each other too much and overextending, because you can even see right now Bowser consistently checking his back, making sure that no one's going to take advantage of that, because once these two train cars start going at it, if we start to see bombardments going down, bubbles being exchanged, that will definitely be an opportunity for an invitation for teams to come up on those top tracks as well, as we take a look at MST playing the edge.
Yeah, MST on the edge of zone here. They will have to move as well, and they're just waiting for something to break out that they can pick apart and a spot that they can take. Shot's going to be fired down with the Vault, but nothing going to be contacted. Defensive bombardment start to go down as well. A late player trying to make a rotation in, but this is going to be a tough rotation for Sixsmith. Does a great job of avoiding most of the defensive bombardment, and as I say that, he actually gets stunned, but he's going to be able to find a momentary safe haven inside of that bubble. Look at this, is Westside now who are trying to jump on the opportunity. They're moving in. Muffins, Mr. Herculo, and Zeratricky trying to finish off this fight. The longbow in hand as well. And that Wraith is going to try and get out of dodge here. Mr. Herculo is going to try and jump back up now and re-engage with the wingman in hand, but all of a sudden things are starting to kick off here as we're down to our last 7 squads, and we're going to have that final ring closing in around a minute's time.
I think we just lost HRN in the kill feed. Almost positive that's what we just saw. We'll get confirmation that all 3 members are down, but it looks like that train car went very quickly, and it was HRN who loses the battle between those two. Peanut Butter Sandwich is going to reset, and 3 of them on red armor.
Sentinel's still in a position as well, involved in this game. You can see that on the team tracker on the right-hand side. Westside Vibes, Team Cruelty, Sentinels, Peanut Butter Sandwiches, NRG, and MST. So once again today, in this day 2 of these semi-finals, it is some of the teams who are on the periphery of that top 10 spot who are really stepping up in these first 3 games today. Bowser now moving in for Peanut Butter Sandwiches. He's got 2 kills to his name, and he's also got 4 assists as well. So Bowser really starting to pop off it.
Yeah, that was where Westside was holding. We saw them on that height. They came out on top of those battles, but in the end, it's Peanut Butter Sandwiches. Once they're able to way up, they swing that height and take advantage of that. Sweet now making it into the top 7, now top 6 as well.
Yeah, Sweet though is going to be spotted here. He's going to be beamed as well, and Sweet's just going to make a desperate dash to try and change location and change angle. He stays alive long enough, I believe, maybe to squeak inside of the top 6. Now we have 5 squads remaining. Team Cruelty, one of those teams down on the low ground. They're going to have to hit maybe one of those ropes that takes the zipline ropes up the top of that crane, but can be very, very difficult to do so, especially with the likes of Sentinels above them. Bowser, Pow Pow, and Sorcerer also in a great position to put up points, and this is a big moment for them. We talked about it all game. They need these points, Andy.
They really do. We've been talking about them all weekend. I don't think they've really put the performances on the board that we were expecting to see from them. A little bit split here due to that bombardment.
Here comes Sentinels, though. You see the jump pad being used to make their rotation. Unfortunately, Crust was met by the Vault of Bowser. You can see that in the kill feed. So Sentinels lose a player. Senox will answer back, though, and Vibes now looking to move in and clean things up. They will pick up a couple of kills on the downed players, but playing this ground just below where all the action is going is good for them. They will take a little bit of time to let these other teams fight, clean things up as Retsu will go down. That Sentinels out. Vibes holding this middle ground and feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, they're going to like the spot a lot. They're also going to like the fact that they just saw Sentinels exit. Sentinels will exit, I think, right in 4th will be their final position for this game. We'll have to see how many kills they got. It didn't look like, based on their staging hold, that they were able to put too many on the board throughout the match.
Well, I think there's a solo down the bottom you can see. Vibes in the middle, and PB Sandwiches up on top. And it looks like PB Sandwiches might be forced to move off of that height first. It's actually not a solo. There's a couple of players alive down at the bottom. You're going to see the caustic barrels go down here, trying to force one of these teams to make a move to give them that cover that they're looking for. However, the hits are going to be coming in with the thermites, and Peanut Butter Sandwiches now maybe thinking about making their move. They're going to actually jump up into the skies, and I think that might have actually been a horizon underneath them. With the grab lift pushing them up into the air, the bubble will go down. Bowser will be taken down. Sorcerer now, last player alive, looking to get inside that top 2, just holding down left click, but it'll be Team Cruelty, the team on the low ground, who managed to close things out. But what a crazy, crazy end to that game it was. And I just wondered where that grab lift came from, because that was a magical play that forced teams to do things they didn't want to do.
They absolutely didn't want to, and the grab lift actually didn't just keep them up straight in the center zone, which would have been like kin to something path zip juggle, it actually had them out of the zone. So that was an amazing Horizon Q that we saw in the end. Somehow Cruelty Team wins from the low ground, like you said, absolute chaos, and that's probably the end circle that resembled the previous, Apex meta, endgame meta, more than any circle I've seen since that update to the final zone. That was absolute carnage, absolute chaos. You even had a Wraith pre-tracing the portal, which you don't even see anymore. So that was absolute madness there with that kind of battle with what looked like was just going to be a battle of elevations. And I'm looking forward to seeing that again from either another POV or an obs camp, because that was total carnage.
Yeah, it really was, and it'll be interesting to see how all three teams played that situation and how they came out on top. But TSM here were some of the highlights. They were doing a good job of holding those teams out of Harvester. Peanut Butter Sandwiches, though, a big game for them inside of the top 3. They had KP as well, and that is going to shoot them up the leaderboards, maybe into that top 10 that they've been desperately trying to get into for so long. We see the bubble fight going down, and those were the final moments that saw the carnage ensue on the middle of that crane. And like you mentioned, it's the first time that we've seen a lot of things that we haven't seen for a while in Apex Legends, and they seem to be repeating themselves. We've seen, like you mentioned, Wraith portals down into end zone. We've seen Pathfinders grappling up and zip juggling, and now we've seen those kind of things as well, Andy. It's been a crazy 3 games, not only 3 games, 9 games up until this point.
Yeah, it really has. And you need a very specific end circle to still see Wraith pre-tracing portals for an end zone. And that's exactly what it is. It's a multi-level battle where the teams are right on top of each other. That's really the only scenario where you'd see I shouldn't say the only scenario, but it's really one of the most likely that you'd still see a pre-trace like that. But the Horizon Q thrown into the mix, of course, Gibby Bubbles that you'd expect as well. That's probably the craziest end zone we've had yet in terms of just pure chaos and the speed at which things are happening in the Masters Spring semis for NA so far.
We'll have to see how things settle points wise after the chaos has calmed down. It's time for us to go to a break and tally up all of the scores. So it's time for us to catch our breaths, for you to do so as well. We'll be back in just a few moments with a few more games for you. Welcome back, everybody, to GLL Masters Spring. Production is put something in chat that's really made me laugh. I'm sorry, I tried so hard to keep it together, but it overflowed from the break. Yeah. So now you knew it wasn't going to happen. You knew me too well. But we are hitting the business end of the tournament now, Andy. We're in the semifinals, of course, and we've only got 3 games now to decide who are the teams that are going to be going through into the grand finals of GLL Masters Spring. And the bubble is looking closer than ever now. Some teams that had massive performances in that last game desperately needed them. That's really going to shake things up.
Yeah, we started to talk about it a little bit, but a big thing there was at the end of that game, that was the second game in a row where a lot of our, just in name, but also in points on the board, were absent from that final 6. And that's going to once again provide an opportunity. That doesn't really always happen, where you have back-to-back opportunities where top teams in the lobby fail to secure the points that we're used to seeing them do. So if you were to write this story for a Hollywood script, this is exactly how I would write it, with a lot of underdogs with big chances now.
It's going to be very interesting when we do see those scores to see what teams are really under pressure in these final 3 games, because even though we've had a lot of games to go, 3 games is still a fair amount of time to rack up some points. This is the score from match number 9. Team Cruelty taking home the win in that game as well. 19 points for them. Peanut Butter Sandwiches, though, what a massive game that was for them. 18 points on the board. And when you compare that to the other end of the table, Space Station Gaming, who were right behind them at the start of that game 9, 0 points for them. I want to see these final standings, or the overall standings, I should say, ahead of our 3rd game. Or 3 games left.
Anytime, let's go ahead and take a look at them right now.
Well, I mean, Space Station Gaming, they're out of the top 10, but Peanut Butter Sandwiches are now in the top 10, and Sentinels, even more with what seemed like a very good performance in that last game, getting right towards the end game, they are on the cusp once more. I mean, MST, a great performance from them. They're just behind now. Space Station need the kind of game that Peanut Butter Sandwiches just had now. And the interesting thing now, Andy, is that the teams who are chasing in that bottom 10, they need those teams who are inside the top 10 to slip up now, because otherwise the points are just going to be taken away from them.
They really do. Cruelty there, edging out Sentinels with that win, getting a lot of points on the board. But yeah, the bubbles got a little bit interesting, because it's pretty dangerous between Cruelty, Sentinels, and Peanut Butter Sandwiches, but there's a little bit of a gap that starts to form, with MST certainly included. But when you look at Space Station, they're pretty far off of that 53 mark for Peanut Butter Sandwiches. So the bubble is not as big as we might expect, but it's still just as dangerous.
Yeah, the disappointing thing I think for Space Station in that game is the zone really was one that favored them as well. A very western zone, moving their way over from Lava Fissure to where they were, or to where the zone ended wasn't too much of a rotation to them, but NRG just caught them off guard. That play from NRG towards the start, well, right at the start of that game, I should say, was something that not only caught us off guard with the way that they just pressured Space Station, who were trying to make their rotation, it also caught Space Station, more importantly, off guard. And that was their game over. So now it is massive for Space Station to put in a massive, massive game, or back-to-back games now for them to have a chance of qualification.
Yeah, and I love what we saw, how NRG responded to that. Like I said, I'm surprised to see SSG get down into Spring's End as fast as they did from Fissure, just because they know that it's a split drop. Maybe they were just trying to catch NRG off guard and instead trying to see if they could find that solo that tends to loot Spring's End and try to 3v1 that. In the end, though, back, and I don't even want to say they ego them off of, they just totally dominate. They come back flying, chase them all the way up through train yard, and then take a pretty wide rotation. So NRG with a very, very strong result there. But Space Station, this is the time for them to step up. Like we said, I believe they're down 38 to 53 is the 10th place mark. They have no room for error in these last few games.
We're going to get the opportunity to see where that beacon is going to be popping as well. You can see Scissors is going to be hitting it here for Team Cruelty, and that is everything that Team Cruelty could have asked for. That is Christmas and birthdays all wrapped into one. Overlook is going to be a great position to be in, but it looks like it could be towards maybe those train carts once again down on the track that we saw, a zone that we thought might be pulling there. Yes, they actually pulled a little bit away from them, more towards Overlook. But Fragment East for TSM, easy rotation from them. Wouldn't be surprised to see them try and play that high ground around Epicenter that they like to do once more. But the opportunity for SSG, well, maybe slipped through their fingers in that last game because of the fact that now they have to make their way right from the very western side of World's Edge over to the east.
Yeah, train battle going on, and looks like Munsgod is going to be on that low ground here. He's going to have to be careful as RCO is going to be on the push here. And we also saw maybe something happening around launch site as well. We'll keep an eye on that, but for now, we'll take a look at train tunnel.
One thing we can guarantee is surely Dome isn't going to be as busy early on as it was in the last game. I'm not quite sure what happened over there, but everyone decided a little bit of a ruck.
It was all the Outcast drop. Honestly, Outcast is back in Refinery now, and Outcast not changing their drop way past the middle of this tournament now keeps things pretty under control, but RCO was on the push.
Yeah, trying to push it. Oh, there was only 2 bullets left in the clip there for Nando to hit that shot, and luckily he did. He takes down Mayhem, and important to hear for RCO Esports, another team who really have struggled so far in this semi-finals. They're one of those teams who need a banger couple of games to put together. They're going to get that early KP and maybe look to secure the finish. They're looking for the finish onto Marty here from Smooth Bananas. They managed to finish 2 players, Mayhem and Munsgod, who will go down. So a good start for them, but Lonely Fans also overlooking this situation that is going down, so they can't overextend too much because the third party is just around the corner. Yeah,
Lonely Fans looking very good in terms of armor here, and they're certainly smelling blood, as you had pointed out. And Onset, you're right. Not only do we have a calmer Dome, but actually RCO had to have changed their drop to have pushed Smooth Bananas off of train like that through the tunnel, through the tracks. They had to have changed their drop there, so that is another noteworthy change here in these last few games, as RCO is going for those Hail Mary, trying to get points on the board, doing whatever they can. They had to change something up.
Look at the amount of teams now that are just moving their way through towards the southern side of Fragment East, overlooking the city and all the views that it does offer. Sentinels are one of those teams who are now making their way through. TSM already made their rotation as well towards Overlook. They think that it's going to be moving right to the eastern cusp of the match, or maybe they're just thinking they know how many teams are going to be rotating here. We want to get away from this situation, let all these teams kill each other who are desperately trying to rotate through and are desperate for points, and let it all just unfold in front of us.
Yeah, Sentinels does have an opportunity to play Overlook South again. We saw them play that yesterday. Looks like they're going to try to get even better real estate as they fly through No Name, but that will be an opportunity for them. We take a look here at CLG really quick, but also do want to mention, we did, in case you missed yesterday, this was pretty much the end zone for Game 2 yesterday and Game 5. Both of those were look and circled. Those results went for a CLG win and also a bottom 20 win. We'll keep an eye on exactly which teams performed in those as we advance through the game, but CLG has a chance to reset and reevaluate their route here as well.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of teams have tried to rotate early here as quickly as possible. CLG obviously trying to do that as well, but we've already seen today from CLG, they're not a one-dimensional team. They are quite happy to realize when that opportunity and that space doesn't open for them to get the spot that they want initially, they can slow things down, play edge, and look to take some isolated fights just around the edge of the zone. So CLG showing flexibility as you have to have at the top level of Apex Legends over the last 2 days.
Absolutely. Now taking a look at Lonely Fans trying to make this route ground. We'll see if they're at the right amount of damage, and it looks like also Scan's going to be coming in, being exchanged as well as they're trying to get even more angle. Ren, that's a big opening shots here with that triple.
Yeah, trying to push up on that damage as well. You can see the Blight and not only getting one knock, but getting two as well. Retsy's in the kill feed as well, picking up the kill onto Mardy. So Lonely fans doing what they can. Another headshot coming in as well. And these triple take shots, I tell you what, they are hitting strong. They're hitting true. And most importantly, they're hitting hard. And now CLG thinking there might be a third-party opportunity. They smell blood. They're trying to think about moving in. But one thing that CLG are so good at, like we saw yesterday, is recognizing when the opportunity to third-party is there and when it's a risk. And they always err on the side of caution.
Yeah, we've seen even more discipline from them today. And for good reason, right? Madness actually looking at the tunnel, seeing if anyone was going to... Instead, just setting port because he knows he wants to focus here on getting a better position.
Well, both Pathfinder, even though two players have been knocked, the banners will be picked up here by Cap, so good job from him. The question is, where's he going to try and get to get those respawns in? He's going to have to work his way away from zone and away from all of the carnage that is going down. And speaking of carnage, it's around staging once more, and no surprise to see NRG involved again.
Yeah, look at this. They got some nice angles here, and Nathan trying to do whatever he can to get even more opening damage. Has to back up for just a second, but they are flying in, continuing that damage on tracks. Going to go all the way around on the flank, but he'll...
Yeah, I'm just worried if there's a third party coming in here as well. NRG already lost one. Sweet is down. Rocker and Nathan left to try and clean things up here. Panda's the last player alive as well. He'll be taken down by Rocker, so NRG win the team fight once again. Sweet wasn't finished as well, so they can get him back to his feet. NRG doing a great job early on.
And it feels like NRG is that team that we catch in these early game fights. They're not afraid to take those 3v3s, and they certainly overextend more than your average team. Even in these competitive lobbies, they're not afraid to take those battles. They're confident in their ability, and they continually take those where a lot of teams would try to maybe just disengage, maybe play it a bit safer. Even at this stage in a semifinal, with how good they're looking, they're still taking those battles and doing pretty well as well.
You know, you can see at the moment that SSG, Space Station Gaming, might be involved in a fight themselves. There's a team just behind them in the choke, and I don't know if Space Station are aware. They've actually managed to make their rotation ahead of them under the bridge, so they should be pretty comfortable, maybe thinking about hitting that balloon just outside of the train station they locate themselves in right now. But a lot of teams already made their way in. You can see Sentinels playing a very similar position, Andy, to what we saw them play yesterday.
Certainly, and not surprisingly, like we said, this is kind of what I was expecting from them. Holding that Overlook South, it was an opportunity for them, mainly because they can gatekeep, like we saw yesterday, No Name, and anyone trying to come uphill through that open cover. It's also going to give them some pretty good opportunities for anyone that's moving big east up that Overlook Hill overall, and they can slowly rotate and play edge there. So they're playing exactly kind of where we saw them play yesterday.
You can see that RKN, Urice and Hill, HRN will be involved in a fight themselves, and it's bottom 20 that they're trying to force out of this building. They're doing it very, very well. You can see Onward and Scurry having to scurry away, excuse the pun, up the hill outside of Fragment, because HRN have been winning so many team fights. Just a team you don't want to take on 3v3, let alone in a 2v3 situation. But HRN trying to keep that aggression up that has served them so well over the last couple of days.
Yeah, bottom 20 presumably going to eventually make their way to No Name, and if they do that, then they're going to have to contend with ranged battles from Sentinels, so they'll need to be careful. But Space Station Gaming on set, the team that we've been talking about all weekend. A lot of promise here, but we're waiting to see what they could do right now. I believe, once again, down 38-53, quite a gap for them to get into the top 10 here with only 2 matches left on the board. 3 matches left on the board, excuse me.
An interesting game for Space Station Gaming in the fact that the zone really isn't going their way. So as you can see right now, they think they've recognized this situation. They're looking for any fights they can take on the edge, and it looks like they've heard a fight going down around the station, around that building that they're running towards right now, and they're looking for a third-party opportunity. So SSG recognizing that maybe this isn't a placement points game for them. They're going to have to take these fights, be the third party, and be aggressive when they have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, it's going to be buff Pathfinder that they're going after, and right away they're going to try to see what they're going to be able to do in these engagements here. Like a little bit of damage, and scans are going to go down as well.
You have to be careful here because there's a couple of teams in the vicinity, so it's not just as easy as moving in and wiping a team that might be caught off guard. There are third-party opportunities coming in for other teams, but a big knock coming in from Clarify is going to make their life a little bit easy. He's going to have to secure that knock as well. You can see him moving out. SSG recognizing the situation, but look who is overlooking this fight that is going on. NRG in a great position once again, just to cause a ruckus to SSG.
Yeah, NRG's going to be very happy with this position that they have right now. Also is exchanging a little bit of shots there with RCO, so they're going to have to be careful and make sure that they don't overextend just too much, but going to be happy to get a little bit of extra poke from range as well.
The RCO set up inside of Fragment West here. Oh, again, just overlooking where NRG and Space Station Gaming are currently fighting with the triple take in hand. Wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe be able to get a knock, do a little bit of damage, but instead you're going to see Nando changing his point of view and changing his crosshair placement towards market inside of Fragment West to see if he can do a little bit of damage in the meantime, but a good position to level up those evos here, Andy.
Yeah, and also pretty noteworthy. Take a look at this NRG big rotation here. They're just chasing down that player that's going to be Bursty on the side of both Pathfinder. They're just trying to chase out this last one. They want to go ahead and wipe and get that one, and that will come in, and it will be even more kills on the board from them as we hit 17 squads left, and we'll have to see. They're going to have an opportunity here to just continue that rotation. But worth noting, those Frag West battles and even this chase just now, I mean, these are way out on the edge of zone. So as you had mentioned on set, NRG choosing to play this one a little bit more edgy, and they'll slowly make their way in. I was wondering if they might instead just go tunnel and could even have a chance here to just fly right through, and that's probably what we're going to see.
We can see at the moment 3 teams I'm interested in are just inside of that second zone. You can see Space Station Gaming moving their way towards Epicenter. Just next to them, though, is going to be HRN, who are thinking about moving their way up the hill. And then CLG, the ultimate third-party team, looking for any opening, are going to be close as well. You can see Vaxelon has turned his attention. Look at this, Loot and Madness immediately reacting to the call that there might be a fight about to break out here around Epicenter. So Space Station and HRN have to be so careful here. They might not realize that CLG are so close in the vicinity, but if they don't, that could be the end of their game.
Yep, Madness and Lou, their head on a swivel. Like you said, great to see it from the overhead view, just how fast. So Vax just anchoring and laying down those shots right away. They turn around to see if there might be an opportunity to push there, but HRN now playing this low ground below SSG. But SSG, like you alluded to, Mark, has to be so careful here. They have to play these games with a perfect balance of conservative aggression. There's really no room for error for them as we get down to this, because they're down by such a deficit and already on the bubble.
I mean, this is such Space Station are in the toughest position here. They have to move forward. They've got HRN under them, and even if HRN, you know, they see that they've been damaged by CLG, but Lou's just been taken out from range. I'm not sure if they came from the ridge over by Epicenter, but those shots were absolute beams that hit him and knocked him down. So CLG momentarily down to a 2-man. They do manage to get the res. They do have a little bit of cover to work with, but that might give the opportunity here to Space Station, and they have seen that. HRN are the team that are below them as well as CLG. And back to the point I was trying to make, the Space Station have to be so careful here. Even if they get baited in by a couple of knocks going down and the opportunity for a third party, they cannot afford to be the first team knocked or to lose a player. And this angle I love seeing from Denial. However, you can see a team is now floating up towards them. Clarify is going to be taken down. Oh, looking so bad for Space Station Gaming, and they are eliminated. HRN were the team they had to worry about, and it was the zipline from the Pathfinder Euris that completely caught them off guard.
Oh my word, so much going down right there. Like you said, the only path, not just in the game, but the only path we've seen in quite some time. Euris able to that to get up top. But the portal didn't look that safe, but it looked safer than what was going on up top. As we take a look at CLG TSM.
TSM moving in. They managed to get the knock onto Madness as well. Another player going to come through the portal, and you have to think TSM thinking they want to take this portal. Were they going to allow the res to come in? It looked like Lou will be able to get res, but Madness was finished. That's going to be KP on the board here, and it's actually Counter Logic Gaming. You can see might have been completely eliminated here. So CLG out, Space Station out. And that's good news for Peanut Butter Sandwiches and Sentinels at the moment, who are 2 of those teams who are kind of on the threshold of the top 10.
You have to wonder what the comms were like, because when Denial set that portal, he actually hit the ground and hit the queue without taking any damage. And the portal, it was in the open, but like we said, it looked a lot safer than what was going on with those bubbles. But you have to wonder what happened with SSG that they were not able to port at the exact right time. Maybe just a little bit of missed timing there for them, and they will exit and have a very tough games 11 and 12.
Well, Hellcast game, I'll come back to that in just a second, because I think it's actually a big brain play coming in from Euris and HRN, as we're seeing Westside getting all sorts of trouble here. Outcast Gaming trying to get out of dodge. You see Crispy Baker, the last player alive. He's got no shields to work with. However, he's found himself a jump pad, and there's a flying Gibby through the skies, but he might not be longed for this game for much longer. That zone's going to be closing in just a few seconds behind them. But back to the HRN SSG fight. I think that HRN recognized that one of the players in I was trying to put that portal down to get an angle on them, and Euris immediately reacted by thinking, hey, if we take this zipline as quickly as possible, we create a 3v2 opportunity for us. We might get the advantage, and it paid off for them.
I think you're right. I think that's exactly what we saw. And did they ever time that perfectly? Even though the portal was set, just enough seconds for them to get that wipe up there and actually force Denial back through the portal just to see if he could do anything to stop the action. And in the end, that wasn't the case.
We're going to see a solo Bloodhound now, and it's going to be for bottom 20. We've got 11 squads now remaining, 9 squads already eliminated in this game. Ring 3 is going to hurt here for Scurry. He does have the gold armor, though, which is going to mean that he should be able to heal up nice and quickly, and Sweet's got a Kraber in his hands. I said it yesterday, one of the best players in Apex Legends with this weapon and making it effective. And now you can see NRG once again looking for any opening. But again, Sweet just showing the opening wasn't there. So made the decision to back up almost immediately and play with his team.
Yeah, really nice job here. Now taking a look to see what bottom car might look like. And they are seeing those bombardments and they are going to waste no time and right in. Many arcs out here.
Either it's going to hit pretty hard as well. And it's going to hit hard again, even harder for Sweet. NRG once again with a clean wipe, and Sweet immediately changing his focus to see if he can find a player. There's a 122 as well onto a player who was trying to hide behind a knockdown shield, I believe. Up in that little corner, Sweet smells blood again, and here comes Sweet.
Oh man, flies right in there. Takes a port though, accidentally, if I'm not mistaken there. We'll go ahead and take a look to see exactly how that played out, but they are flying in right away.
Yeah, and it's going to be Nathan now moving in just to pick up some meds. The team was finished off, and Sweet with the Kraber in hand as well, he's going to finish off that down onto hundreds with a Z. And all of a sudden, we've got 7 squads remaining. I mean, I'm not quite sure what's happened in this game. It has been carnage all over World's Edge.
It really has been, and you got to love that. Just, I mean, absolutely tactical from NRG. You knew when they were coming down right on that train, wipe that as quickly as they did, but the amount of damage they're able to do compared to the amount of damage they receive, and as they wipe those battles, they do it so efficiently. And even though those are third-party opportunities, the amount of damage you take from that third party can really be the difference on if you get pushed, if you're out of position, how long it takes to reset. All of that comes in to be quite a difference. But look at TSM here flying over to the side.
Yeah, using that jump pad to make their rotation. Reps is almost going to have his armor broken, but getting across there without being taken down is a big play for them. But look at this, Sentinels now making their move as well. They're going to jump pad up to height above TSM now, but it looks like Retzi has recognized who is down there, doesn't want to get caught off by any of those teams inside of Overlook. So Sentinel is just going to back up, play this corner that they played so well in the games yesterday, and try and reset and formulate a different plan.
Yeah, they're actually going to move a little bit north here, maybe try to take a more central eastern route into Overlook and see what options might present themselves in terms of third-party opportunities. But you're right, you saw Retzi get a look. He saw TSM there holding silos. By the way, this is the second day in a row here where we're just seeing TSM get what looks to be, I don't want to call it free real estate, but they're getting the best part of Overlook again and again, and it feels like just the way that they're using that jump pad, they're just able to get it way too easily, and it feels like they're tucked in really neat and nicely now once again.
Yeah, I think a lot of fights breaking out on the edge has made their rotation a little bit more comfortable than it would be maybe if we had a little bit of a closer lobby, or if we weren't getting towards the stages where teams are just desperate for points. This is the thing we should raise as well. You know, teams aren't just fighting on the outside of the map for the sake of it. It's because they're desperate to pick up KP, because they need to force their way into that top 10. One of those teams who's currently holding down one of those top 10 positions is Sentinels, and Retzi doing damage through the stun and managing to finish off these kills. We're down to 6 squads now as Crust also gets involved and managed to pick up the kill on Blueberry Smalls.
Yeah, those gonna be lonely fans there, just trying to do whatever they could here at that top zip, and in the end, Sentinels, very nice job there. They're gonna come in and loot up, and now we are down to our top 6 squads: My Little Phony, NRG, Sentinels, Cruelty, TSM, and Vibes.
Plenty of room for people to play with at this point. Sentinels going to take their time to loot up, and you can see there's different areas to play. You can play under that big building there. You've still got silos available. Just looking across to see where TSM are right now, and it looks like they might have gone missing, or they might just not be showing up on the HUD. You can see they're still involved in the game and on team track on the right-hand side, but Sentinels, the team who have got to make the play here, so to speak, as they have to force their way across that open ground towards zone.
And they're going to hope that a little bit of chaos ensues there. You're going to see a little bit of TSM popping up there. Snipe down, you're going to see on the top pillars as well. Reps popping into, so just a little bit of a HUD bug. Despite being in range, they didn't pop up right away. But we knew they were still tucked back into that comfy spot along the silos, exactly where they want to be. But Cruelty, happy with their positioning as well. But Onset, you making great points. Sentinels' move here could be tournament defining in terms of exactly how they sit in this table. But actually, Scissors making a huge move, and now Sentinels going to go back to silos as well. Here they are in the mix.
Yeah, getting aggressive as well, trying to force back TSM and force a position that they can play from, and they're going to be able to do it as well. Lots of nades coming in, arc stars and frags, which is going to force the bubble here from Sentinels. So if there's any gibbies around who are thinking about using that defensive bombardment to force a team out, then Sentinels might be the team to use it on, although it might be a little bit early to do so. Looking at the kill feed as well, and I just saw Sweet with the Kraber kill once more. I mean, at this point, I'm not surprised.
And Senox pokes for a second just to look at the western side, and somehow, even poking for just a second, you know that it had to be TSM, maybe Snipedown on the top of that, maybe Cruelty Team as well, just getting some angles. Actually, excuse me, it might have been Snipedown directly above that damage. Because look at Snipedown just hunting his prey from the high ground.
Yeah, Snipedown just overlooking Sentinels right now and just keeping an eye on every single one of their movements. He will not let them out of his sight. However, he's got to be careful that he doesn't get focused by all three players and overextend. And I've got to say, being on controller and being up on those silos, sometimes you can slip off the edge, okay? That's all I'm saying. It happens. And one team who's trying to force him off the edge is going to be Sweet, who had the opportunity maybe to hit that shot. And this could be huge for both TSM and NRG. If one poke comes in, then Sweet will take advantage of it. How will be taken down? And now Sweet says, we go forward, men. We move in once more.
Look at the perfect route. Bubble is down as well. TSM in all sorts of trouble. Sweet with the big opener there with the Kraber. You love to see it.
It's not the first time we've seen it. It just seems to be easy for this man to hit these big Kraber headshots. And the opening taken by NRG. And look at that one shot with the Kraber. There's a lot of discussion over whether the Kraber should be in competitive at the moment, with the fact that you can hit that shot that just completely changes the tide of things. But it certainly is exciting. And now Snipedown, unfortunately, he was feeling pretty up on that silo. Now he's got NRG above him.
Oh, and NRG is going to get ready to collapse on that. Sentinel's actually making a big move as well, but NRG now the kings of the castle here. Still a Kraber in hand. You know these shots are going to hit. Sweet continues.
123 this time. Not a headshot for Sweet. He'll be disappointed with that. I'm not going to lie. The man only deals in headshots.
It's true. No half
measures.
measures.
In hand as well. With the turbocharger on it is going to mean that he can hit pretty hard at close range as well. NRG, one of our four squads remaining. They've done a great job to create the opening for this rotation, and it all came down to the Kraber in the hands of Sweet, who almost hits another shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Havoc pops out as well. Gets a little bit of damage, but they're going to be really happy with this positioning because it's all out chaos here on the ground. Sentinel's trying to do whatever they can here. They're in a world of hurt, especially once this dome ends.
They are, but they've managed to pick up a knock as well, so they should be able to get a reset. Both teams inside of those bubbles get the reset. But look at Cross. Cross, even without full shields aside, he wants to get aggressive. He wants to push in, and now Retzi is letting the chopper sing, and they will pick up those kills, but I don't think that they're going to be able to survive as NRG are overlooking all of the carnage going down below them.
Yeah, I mean, NRG just looks way too good here. All still sitting on red Evos, just looking so strong.
As NRG will have to drop here. I'm not sure how many players are alive from other teams, but now they will drop, checking those corners, and it is NRG's game to win here. If they throw this one away, it would be extremely disappointing for them to do so. It's just two solo players. This is we're taken down. NRG will clean up the mess that is in front of them, and NRG, what a game that was from them. They got a hell of a lot of points on the board as well, fighting on their way from the western side of World's Edge all the way to the east. They can get it done anywhere on World's Edge.
They really can. And we saw great rotations coming in there. We saw TSM padding out to hold that initially, and then NRG sneaks their way all the way in after once again taking a very long route. And then when you saw the sight line that Sweet had with the Kraber on TSM, you knew that it might spell disaster, and it did. And I mean, Sweet immediately pads and hits the double perfectly onto that platform to interrupt that res. Keep in mind, if he doesn't hit that double jump perfectly, that res might have happened. Things just would have ended up differently, but he hits that timing so perfectly after hitting that 319 Kraber to just get in there, and right away all they have to do is just get on height, chase out Snipedown, and by that time Sentinels and crew had already rolled out, and NRG making it look too easy on triple red, just sitting up top. Like you said, just watching the chaos ensue below them.
Yeah, I mean, that play that we just saw there was one of the highlights of the game as far as context of semifinals is concerned. SSG versus HRN, and then it was just a Sweet show. I mean, we saw so many big shots with the Kraber from him towards the end game. Vibes picking up some kills here as well, but you can see 290 from Sweet coming in as well. That one we didn't catch. We did catch that one, and it's almost like a little montage coming in from Sweet towards the end of this game.
It really is. It feels like we're watching just the NRG highlight reel. And actually, we
should throw a little breaking Benjamin on that in the background. I think we got something.
I think so. That's really the only way to do it there. But like you said, Sweet putting on a highlight reel. Snipedown able to stay alive on the bottom of those pillars bottom of those silos, as long as he did. But in the end, it's the NRG win, and they look very good. They looked good for our entire semifinals, but they look even better here. Lots to talk about, but I think we're going to have the scoreboard and much more to look at after the break.
And it was time for that break that you talk about. 2 more games to go. And even though this has been a long, grueling process of the semi-finals, all of a sudden, there's not much time left for these teams to get those points on the board. Top 10 will be going through to the finals. We've got 2 more games remaining. We'll be following them right after this. Welcome back once more, everybody, to the GLL Masters Spring. And I said it was business time before, but it really is getting down to serious boardroom levels right now. We've got 2 games remaining, and some difficult conversations are going to be had by some of these teams at the moment who are outside of that top 10, Andy. We've already seen the pace pick up in that last game where teams are starting to get a little bit desperate, looking for kill points wherever they can find them. And that makes everybody's job a little bit harder to get into that finals lobby.
Yeah, and you've got really interesting mix of play styles that are going to start to emerge. Like you said, anyone who's around 15 to 20, they're going to start a little bit of Hail Marys. They're going to pull an RCO. They're going to change their drop entirely and try to ego someone off of the drop, which they did successfully at Trainyard earlier. If we take a look at exactly how that went down, that was up against Smooth Bananas. But we're also seeing teams like Sentinels that are mid-pack right on the bubble that have to balance that aggression very carefully, and they have to play a little bit more conservative to make sure that they're getting points. And then you have the teams all the way at the top of the table, pardon me, the TSMs, the CLGs, who could just kind of do whatever they want and just full aggro.
Yeah, I mean, NRG did that in the last game. It just seemed like every single time that they saw a team, they would decided that they were going to kill that team. And it's a pretty effective tactic if you win every single fight. And Sweet's got a Kraber in his hand. It certainly was a lot of fun to watch, unless maybe you're a TSM fan and you saw Hal's head get removed and then put back together again as we go into our final 2 games. But I mean, it's a tough one right now for the teams. We'll bring up the scores as soon as we have them available to you, just to give you the lay of the land ahead of these last 2 games. But now it's in, for some of these teams, it's going to be a case of you win the game and you get KP along the way, these last 2 games to qualify. And that is a tough ask, especially with how well the likes of TSM, CLG, HRN, everyone has been playing who's in those top 4 spots.
Yeah, it's crazy. It feels like there's way too many teams, like we talked about, and even before this entire semifinal started, there's too many teams to list when you talk about the talent that's in this semifinal lobby, especially over on this side here in this group. It is going to be a very difficult road for a lot of those teams that are towards the end, and you have to think they're going to need to really send it, and it's going to need to be a full send in terms of getting on the board. But let's go ahead and take a look at first the results from that last game.
NRG 26 kills. What?
Oh my word. We knew it was going to be a high kill count. We didn't know it was 26 and it was a 38-point bomb.
What? All right, NRG won. Sentinels are in second. 8 kills for them. A pretty good performance, to be honest with you. 8 kills, second place. You'll be happy with that. It was all kind of eclipsed as far as that NRG performance was concerned. NRG, no surprise after seeing that game, to be on top of the pile with 77 kills and 123 points. TSM just in behind. But I mean, talk about this top 10 now, Andy, because there's a couple of teams who are right on the edge.
Yeah, we'll come back to NRG because I don't even know what to say. We will get back to the NRG sitting on 77 kills, but let's take a look at the bubble right now, exactly where this sits. Still dangerous waters for the likes of Sentinels, Cruelty, and Peanut Butter Sandwiches, but I do want to point out the gap that we're seeing. Sentinels and Cruelty very close, but it's a 10-point delta to 10th for Peanut Butter Sandwiches, and then another 11-point gap there to MST, and then 6 points to Space Station. So once again, the bubble is not packed with teams that are points away from each other, but with 2 games left, anything still from that, you could say even 6th all the way to 12th, anything could happen with those teams. Now, don't get me wrong. It's going to need to be a big point performance from either side, whether it's a point advantage or whether it's a point loss or a lack of points to change that. But it's absolutely still possible within these last 2 games. We're also going to take a look at the leaderboard for Group 2.
Yeah, Complexity taking over that number 1 spot, 58 kills for them. They really have come into form today. As said, Zen season in behind with 111 points. Team Liquid, though, just inside that top 10. But look how close this is with 2 games to go. Excuse me. Solar Fide on 43 points. Team Liquid holding down 10th place with 53. 10 points between those teams. I mean, that's barely anything with 2 games to go.
And absolutely nothing secured for either of those 2 teams. Like I said,
further as well. I didn't even know it's 43, 40, 35, still very much within the qualification standings.
Certainly, there's a little bit of a closer bubble overall in that second group. So if you do want to get those games up from the player streams, make sure you also check that out because that's going to be a pretty thrilling finish as well as we cover group number 1 here. But Man, Solafide and Team Liquid, that's going to be quite a wild last two games for those two powerhouse teams that you do not expect to be on the bubble in a semifinal like this.
It's surprising given the fact that we played across 12 games as well. You really would expect those teams to find some form at some point in the lobby over 12 games, but things maybe not quite clicking for those teams in the semifinals, but they're going to have to click soon, especially for Solafide, who have been so good throughout the winter circuit and before that as well. You know, they really have been one of the standout teams in North America, but they've still got 2 games to go, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them put together a huge game like we see them do before, where they just wipe the lobby away and all of a sudden they're just like, what were you worried about? We're inside the top 10. We'll see you at the finals. But I mean, let's take a second to appreciate what just happened in that last game with NRG, because that is one of the most dominant performances that I have seen in a game of Apex Legends in some time, especially given some of the names we have in this lobby.
Absolutely. You're going to see that match is going to be a match restart here as the admin's going to end that game. But when we saw that kill count, now we knew that they had heavy double-digit kills in that game without a doubt. I don't think anyone knew it was going to be a 38-point game. Just to put that into perspective, we were making a big deal about the fact that they had an average of 16.6 points per game in the quarterfinals. That was a very impressive feat. This is more than double that here in that last game. And the first thing I'm doing after this tournament ends tonight is I'm going to go find the VOD and I'm watching that game from their POV. I want to see the route. I want to see the comms, because we got to see a good bit of it as in terms of that bottom train car push, and then also pushing on to the second battle that followed that up, as well as their final end game battles. An amazing performance for Sweet for them to get the angles that they did, to then hit the Kraber shot, to then fly in right away on the advantage of TSM. It was an amazing game, and we only caught glimpses of it, but what the hell? A 38-point game. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, what the hell? I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, holy might have been a better way to put it, but you know, we'll have to hopefully GLL don't fire me for that. Come on, I beeped it. It's fine. But amazing performance coming in from NRG in that game. But I mean, what's the mentality going to be like for these teams outside of that bubble right now? You've got 2 games to go. You know you haven't found any rhythm right now. I mean, how do you approach these games? Is it a case of you try and execute what you've been trying for 10 games, or do you think, hey, we've got to try something different now? We've only got 2 games remaining. It hasn't worked up until this point. It's such a tough place to find yourself in.
It really is. As we get ready for this next match here, I want to talk about those teams just because we have another minute. As you just saw, the match is going to get restarted by the admin, so we're going to have a minute to talk about while we wait for that match to start. The points that are on the board. I think for a few teams, they continue to play their game as usual, and I think that we can maybe take a look at the leaderboard once again for Group 1. I think it'd be helpful as we talk through this while we wait for the admins to restart. But the teams that I want to focus on, that I'll be looking at the most in terms of just continuing to play their game, the first one is going to be the likes of Sentinels, Cruelty, and Peanut Butter Sandwiches, the teams that are on the left side, your 8, 9, and 10. I absolutely expect them, along with MST, to be continue playing the exact game they're playing. I don't think they need to change much up. When I look at Space Station and lower, I think that's where I think some drastic changes need to come in, because Space Station there with such a big gap there, a 17-point gap, I don't think, even though these are talented rosters, Lonely Fans too, I don't think that they should just sit back on their laurels and say, let's play our game, because clearly at this point there are teams that are outperforming them. So I would say 12th and lower onset is where I'm expecting to see maybe a change in drops. Probably not a change in comps at this point, unless there were some very specific decisions being made for their side, but definitely a change in just where they're thinking about dropping, or even how fast they rotate out of their drop. Because right now, I would say Sentinels, Cruelty, Peanut Butter Sandwiches, and MST are the only ones that can comfortably just continue to play their games, My Little Phony included there.
Yeah, I want to give a bit of a shout out here to the team that's in 5th place as well, Vibes. What a performance it has been over the last couple of days from them. Ak, Mooney, and Voltic. I would not have picked them as a team who would be up in 5th place, with all due respect to those players really coming out and putting on a show. I mean, they've been involved. They've obviously won a game, but they've always been there and thereabouts, Andy, in that end game.
And it's really important to mention, I'm glad you brought up Vibes, because it's a team we haven't given enough credit. So I'm really glad you did, because where they're sitting, like you said, is very impressive. I also want to point out they had a 9th place quarterfinal, barely getting into the semis. So to then bounce back the way that they have is quite a Cinderella story, to be in 5th place with a lobby like this right now, upsetting quite a few teams that many Apex fans would have put above them if they had to place bets.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think that they really should be proud of themselves, and I'm sure they're looking forward to the finals should they confirm their place, which with 78 points on the board, you maybe would expect them to do. It'd be great to look at the other semi-finals as well, the standard, if we do have the opportunity to do that as well. We haven't been obviously following the action here on the GLL broadcast, but this is what has been happened, and I think it's almost a talking point with what is going on, how tight this lobby is. I mean, you look from, each of the teams down. I'd say, complexity season, really good performance, over 100 points, amazing. But then you go 90, 82, 67. That's where the kind of cutoff is. But 67, 64, 62, 61, 59, 53. It is so tight between all of the teams, even down to, Farm Boys. Even Obey Alliance still have a shot with 2 games remaining to qualify.
They do, and it's going to get really messy here in these last 2 games, especially with just how close those teams are in terms of points. And it's going to be a pretty exciting last 2 and not easy games for all those teams that are in there.
So complexity coming back to form as well. Not the winter circuit playoffs they would have wanted, of course. They expect to pick up those big wins, but it would be very disappointing not to see the likes of Team Liquid and Solar Fide in the grand finals of the GLL Masters Spring. They're going to, of course, want to solidify their spots. Team Liquid just holding on at the moment for the opportunity to get through to the final. One thing that I did see as well, Abralele tweeting out that he was going to be playing Gibby today. So obviously they weren't too happy with something that was happening yesterday. A little bit of a competition change up for them that seems to have given them a little bit more consistency today, but maybe not the levels we expect from Team Liquid. However, this is the semi-finals. All you've got to do here, it's not about number 1, it's about being inside of that top 10.
And like you're pointing out, I mean, we're talking about 2 games left. When you talk about the point difference that you just mentioned, if you go down from 5th all the way to that 10th place, it's such a small gap between these squads that with 2 games on the board, once again, you could see the entirety of 7th through 10th be swapped out on the bottom with the right side of the table. Still, anything can happen here yet. It's even tighter than our Group 1.
Yeah, it really is anyone's game at this point in Group 2 or the second semi-final, whatever you want to call it, that's going on at the moment. It really is going to be incredible to watch. And as I say, keep a second tab open, a second window on a second monitor, whatever you're doing, make sure that you're catching the action that's going on down in that second semi-final. But I mean, back to business now in the semi-final that we've been following, Andy. I mean, Space Station Gaming, it's been a crazy few weeks for them. I mean, they got picked up obviously by Space Station, big expectations, made the winter circuit playoffs. The performance maybe not what they would have wanted, but a decent performance from them. And then to not find the form across such a long series, it's got to be really concerning for them. Players that are so talented, but something isn't going quite right. We should keep into account as well that a lot of the zones on day 1 were east, but we have seen some western and central zones as well, which again, especially that zone that we saw around staging that they got knocked out first in the group, that kind of mistake can't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at a team like SSG, you had mentioned it was a 10th place for them at the winter circuit playoffs. Certainly not the exact position that they'd want to be in. And you have players on that team that are used to placing much higher as well. For them to be where they are right now, 17 points off of the 10th spot, you have to wonder how they play this game number 11, because like I said, it's a team that I would expect to maybe have to change a little bit up in the way that they play this. However, they're so talented that do they just play these 2 games and look for, hey, how many times have we played in tournaments? How many times have we played this game? Do we just get 2 consistent games here? Or do they look to overextend just a bit and try to make something different? It's honestly a very tough set of play calls that will happen in this game for Space Station.
I think the first thing for them to do that will decide if they make the semifinals or not is quite simply the first team fight they get in. If they win it, I think they make the semifinals. I think that they're that kind of team. If they wipe a team aside, all of a sudden with that team, things click, right? With experienced players, things click. It's like, oh, that felt good. We're going to now try and roll on with that momentum. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you've picked up 9 kills when you're getting towards that end zone, and things feel a lot less pressurized on your shoulders, and you start to find that form. Such talented players, like I mentioned, nothing against Space Station's gaming here, just not at the level that we expected from them, but I am expecting them to come good. I think they really will push right until the end of these semifinals to make it into that top 10. Sentinels as well have showed today that I think they've gone away, reviewed a few things, and they've come back and looking a lot stronger today, Andy, than what we saw yesterday. Yeah,
right now Sentinel's sitting on 69 points, so they've got a little bit of a cushion. I wouldn't call it comfort, but they've got a little bit of a cushion right now, 12 points above the 10th place spot, So right now, 2 consistent performances would put them in a pretty good place. Even just one big game of these next 2 would put them pretty comfortably into the bottom half of that top 10, which is where they'll certainly hope that they sit at least at the end of these next 2 games. But there's the big things here for Space Station. Like you said, the question also is what's going to happen in terms of this pull. We've also been exposed, due to the nature of the semifinal, we've been exposed to different playstyles. We have seen aggressive and confident Energy, CLG, TSM, HRN for a reason. Not only are they so talented, but they have such big points cushions on the other side where we can see them afford to do that. So we can watch them time and time again, game and game again, do that. We haven't been able to see the likes of Space Station and Sentinels play that way because of their point situation. So it's interesting because Space Station's a game that's capable of those pushes. They can do that, but the points have kind of hampered their ability to make risky plays.
Well, we'll have to see how Space Station approach this game, and the same with some of those other teams just outside of the bubble. It's the penultimate game of the semifinals of the GLL Masters Spring for North America. We're going to jump on board with NRG, and something I actually wanted to talk about, and we will have the opportunity while they loot up, is there's a wild card, in my opinion, in this lobby right now, and it's the team that we're watching. NRG are hitting such crazy form, and it seems to be catching, you know, just crazy fire as far as their team fights are concerned. I think they can upset the lobby here. I think they can take so many points away that it makes getting into that top 10 even more difficult.
They absolutely can. They are up there with the teams that can just absolutely slay out. We've seen them do it. We've also seen CLG and TSM just slay out in big ways. But now I think NRG has the title for slaying out. We take a look at RCO off of the break early on, actually going up in some early battles of their own.
Yeah, they'll win that one as well. First team eliminated from the lobby, unfortunately. You're on the receiving end of RCO Esports. It's not where you want to be. The Mozambique, always good to see that gun in action. And it's another Eastern zone. And it looks like we're going back maybe to No Name here. Overlook kind of cut off there. You wouldn't expect that pull. But we saw a very similar zone to this yesterday, Andy, that actually pulled in towards Geyser. Although it doesn't look to be containing quite as much as Geyser. Slightly more northern than we saw.
Yeah, definitely the pulls just a little bit more. You could say maybe 30% more north here, but we're taking a look. RCO actually still in that battle, and they're getting hard pushed by 2 rank 1 pub that's coming in down from Hill Valley. So RCO was able to once again beat Smooth Bananas off of Train, but now 2 rank 1 pub is flying right at them.
And this is where you're going to see the aggression coming in. RCO now going to be losing 1 player. And aggression is going to be the name of the game for so many of these teams now. They desperately know that there's only a limited amount of points left in these last 2 games, and they have to be aggressive. They have to put the pressure on. And RCO Esports, unfortunately, falling early here unless BAM can pull off something absolutely magical. This might be the end of their GLL Masters Spring.
Yeah, RCO right now down in 17th place with 20 points on the board, and one of the teams that no doubt needed a big performance here. That change that they made, once again, they needed to get out of Dome. They had very obnoxious rotations on opponents to get out of Dome. It wasn't working well for them over the course of day 1 and the beginning of day 2. So far they're 2 for 2 on the Train Yard wins, but right away they get taken down. But look at Cruelty taking a lot of damage as well here at Overlook South.
Yeah, Team Cruelty who land over at Overlook, trying to make a move into a little respawn town here outside, and TSM are already there. The rotations absolutely superb for them, and they just catch them off guard. And once again, it's how he's getting that opening pick, and maybe they're going to be thinking about, if there's no other teams in the vicinity trying to push on this advantage, how now popping those cells has to get back up to a full complement. It'd be interesting to see if their opponents can get that player back rezzed, or if they got the finish. But you can already see this is where teams are estimating this circle will be finishing. 4 teams already in the respawn town.
Yeah, they're looking for No Name finish, and you see it right away. All the buildings going very quick, and unsurprisingly, we should talk though. TSM had the opportunity to fast rotate. They didn't just fast rotate; they got some great loot out of Frag, and they also got straight in right away too. So they're going to be very happy with how this netted out. They didn't have to leave right away, but Sentinel's actually going to jump pad all the way out. They want no part of this here. Hal trying to get an angle.
Reps and Hal both just overextending a little bit to see if they can get some shots onto Retzi. Retzi backing up now, and Sentinel's involved in a fight. You can see an EMP going off as well, which is going to slow down their progress a little bit, and they're going to have to be very, very careful here and play the southern side of these tracks using that head glitch to make sure that they are difficult kills and difficult targets to hit. It looks like Sentinels kind of find out on that rotation that where they wanted to hold isn't available, so now they're having to think about plan B.
They certainly are, and Sentinel's a team that had to make a little bit of a longer route, without a doubt, about the triple, actually a lot more than that, the distance of a team like TSM in terms of getting there. So instead they have no home, but they're going to find an underpass team here right away, and we'll have to see what goes on between this battle.
Yeah, TSM just starting to give up that location within No Name, the respawn town, where you want to, whatever you want to call it. and locate themselves inside of the tunnel. And maybe that's just because they realize that there's going to be so many teams and so much carnage going down that it could be one shot through a window, one grenade, one stick that could really scupper their penultimate game here. So they're letting everything happen in front of them, and they're just going to hold down this tunnel. They can see it's inside of the next zone as well, and just kind of let things play out. But look at this. Now they're catching HRN off guard, and they're going to be landing some shots, but the caustic ult will go down. Imperial How has to be extremely careful here. He gets stunned as well, has to back up. That's going to be a bubble in from Hill. They're trying to get aggressive here, HRN. You can see it's almost like two boxers boxing right now. Blows being landed on either side, but nobody quite landing that knockout shot.
And only a little bit of heals going off here. This is going to be dangerous, and HRN looks like they still have that advantage as they're still going to make that push, but it looks like ASM's able to just tuck right against the vault here to get away for now and have an opportunity maybe to reset a bit more.
Yeah, Scan's going to come in as well from Snipedown, which is going to force HRM back. They don't want to be caught off guard, don't want to be shoulder peeking and getting beamed by three players just locating themselves onto where TSM were. So now you're going to see them pushing through. They actually end up on Geyser, and you can see with how empty Geyser is right now that teams have recognized this is a slightly more northern pool than what we saw in one of our games yesterday. But Yuri's just absolutely cut down on the cross. Should be able to get res though. As you can see, the dome is going to go down from Hill here. It's going to be up to Arky and to hold the fort white. The Pathfinder gets back on its feet, but a little bit of a scary moment there for HRN.
Definitely a scary moment. That happened much faster than I think any of us expected, including Reese, as he was just about to get into the doorway as you see some action happening outside. So Geyser's about to get real hot real fast. You have to wonder if TSM's going to re-engage, and I think that that's probably them on the outside of the tunnel as well. So things are going to stay pretty spicy here.
Yeah, TSM just having a little look, a little gander, just a little peek around the corner to see if there was anything that they could come in and finish off. But looks like HRN now going to decide that they want to make their move through Geyser and maybe reapproach and reevaluate their rotation towards the northern side of the map. And CLG, we jump on board with Lou, who's on the toilet.
Lou just hanging out in the toilet, no armor, kind of caught with his pants down a bit, if you ask me, as he's going to just sit here and no name. But gotta say, interesting move from TSM. Not to say it's terribly surprising, but they opt to leave no name and get. It sounds like Ob's letting us know that he, of course, got respawned there. So not only is he, there's a reason for his bathroom. Yeah, there's a reason for his bathroom activity. So don't worry there. Getting that intel here, and we'll have to find out how that battle went down. But do want to point out just the fact that we had TSM leaving no name once again, choosing instead to hold the tunnel like we saw yesterday. But you feel like they had more reason to do it with yesterday's game 1 pull compared to today's game 11 pull now.
We'll have to see where the next zone goes. I think it will give us a bit of information on how TSM are approaching this game. If it is a case of them wanting to kind of let everything play out in front of them and then come in and when a team does get knocked, be a third party and then take that building away from another team who might have been holding it previously, or if they're thinking maybe there might be an opportunity, this pulls towards guys. We do see some funky pulls, as we well know, in Apex Legends, so maybe TSM just hedging their bets a little bit, but I kind of feel sorry for Lou. The last thing you want to be doing is run around in the bathroom naked. It's not a good place to be. Especially with windows open. People can look in.
Especially on stream. Lots of risk with Twitch bans, etc. So you want to be really careful with how you're doing this here. But now also guys are still getting pretty packed, but we're also still seeing sentinels along that ridge choke, and they're still also potentially going to be in a battle. They're still with Pow Pow and Bowser, who are just on the top of that underpass choke. So we'll have to see how that forces itself and what circumstances kind of conspire there.
Well, NRG are being aggressive once again, and Sweet is going to fall over. There's no other way to put it. Sweet falls over. Rocker and Nathan now trying to do what they can. I think that maybe Sweet didn't realize there was a player in that vicinity and just got beamed out of the sky. And unfortunately for Sweet, that will be the end of the game for him for now, unless they can get that banner back and maybe he can get a Kraber in his hands and have some revenge. But G rank 1 pub right on the edge of zone here, catching Sweet off guard.
Absolutely. He absolutely gets beamed. Did not expect that to happen. And Draco's going to fly right up. Love this play to cut off the staircase and going to have some really great shots with the 99 as well in response.
Yeah, needs to get aggressive on NRG here. Even though it is NRG, even though it's two very talented players, they have an advantage as far as players is concerned. And now the defensive bombardment is going to come in. And I think they just realized that, you know, they're playing against NRG. This is another team. Maybe they play this a little bit different. The wingman shots are going to connect, but not too many of them. And finally, 2 rank pop, 1 pop are going to be moving in. Nathan will go down. And this should be a simple wipe of NRG here. Even though they were incredibly impressive in the last game, 2 rank 1 pop will put an end to their game 11.
Wow, 2 rank 1 pub there. Your 14th place team. They're off by over 20 points from the 10th place spot, and they take down NRG, your number 1 team. So something we haven't quite seen in the GLL Masters Spring North American semis yet. An upset like that, just in terms of where the teams sit in the table, they're going to be very happy with that 2 rank 1 pub. NRG is going to have to sit the rest of this one out.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things to say about that play there from NRG that gets said with the group of players that I play Apex Legends with. It doesn't matter what happens as long as it looks good. And to be fair to Sweet, it looked good, right?
He did it with style. He did it with style.
So it doesn't really matter. As long as it looks good, it's fine. Well, look at that pull. You see a little bit of guys are still in, and all of a sudden TSM looking like they're in an absolute god position right in the middle of that zone, inside of that vault. Teams still in and around No Name, looking for SSG. They're right on the edge at the north side, and they've got Westside moving up just behind them as well. So SSG, who are up on the high ground at Epicenter, still involved in this game. And although that might sound like an obvious thing to say, that is vital for them.
It is, and they're doing a little bit of, you saw just a few shots exchanged there on the other side with the feed, and you have to wonder just right now how fast that west side battle is going to happen there at Epicenter South.
Well, it looks like Clarify might be the closest player and might be engaging with them, and it looks like they're sneaking up at the moment. Clarify is desperately going to be calling for help if he does spot Westside moving up, and you can see Mr. Herculo is going to poke out there, and a couple of shots will be exchanged, and now it looks like Westside are trying to get aggressive. The ult's going to be popped by the Bloodhound here to give him that extra ability to scan more frequently and that increased movement speed. So it looks like Westside want to make a play here on Space Station. A huge moment in this game 11.
I was wondering when we were going to see that scan from Muffins, just because he would have gotten that information that an SSG player was caught out. It looks like didn't get the information in time, or just didn't have the right kind of positioning, composition in terms of being able to push that solo. Didn't get the scan maybe at the right time. Space Station going to fly right out of there.
Yeah, Space Station are just escaping at the moment. And I think Zanail got beamed in all of that process going on and had to kind of retreat and rethink about where they wanted to play. Cool Cats now inside a Geyser, taking a fight right at the eastern tip of it. Going to have to now retreat towards the tunnel. But we know what team is residing in here right now. And Cool Cats, they might be cool right now, but they might be in for a bit of a horrible surprise. And it looks like they are, as Ava is down to about 15 HP.
And you be careful here, you know, it's TSM territory here, and we're actually going to cut TSM right away, and they waste no time, excuse me. They fly right to the geyser end right away. Somehow all 3 of them, even though they were watching that northern side just moments ago, instead now facing the south, burning as well. Great thermals coming out from Reps.
Yeah, TSM trying their best to finish off these kills as well, but it looks like, unfortunately for them, the Cool Cats have managed to scarper over the garden fence, excuse me, and live to fight another day. But as I say that, they run into another team, and now Reps is getting aggressive as well. You can see he managed to pick up one with that scout from distance. Fighting going down. Scurry's going to be involved as well. Bottom 20 lost one player, and there's TSM. It's the one team you don't want to run into. That is the door you do not want to knock on.
Absolutely not. Looks like TSM's going to tuck back in just a little bit for now. So take a look at bottom 20. Like we said, a team that surprised us quite a bit and performed very well. They're in 6th place right now with 72 points.
So Vayne going to use the portal to get out of trouble initially. He's going to have a little bit of time here to pop the med kit, and I think the TSM are maybe just thinking that we'll take the loot. We don't need this extra kill for now, because we know that Vayne will have to at some point maybe rotate back towards where we are on a 3v1. A 3v3 against TSM is hard enough, let alone a 3v1. So for Vayne and bottom 20, this might be close to the end for them in our game number 11. But look at the team tracker. Cool Cats out, NRG we saw fall as well, Smooth Bananas out. It has been not the performance they would have wanted, but getting to the semi-finals, always an achievement in itself. As we get a little bit of Rackham here.
Yeah, worth noting for Vayne here that this is not just a throwaway. Even though they're up 72 right now to 57, it's a comfortable lead. But if teams like My Little Phony, Sentinels, Cruelty, PB Sandwiches were to place really well in these last 2 games, they do risk not making it. So this is not a throwaway. He does want to get as many points as he can on the board in terms of placement.
Well, this is a rough zone for everybody involved in this game. SSG approaching now, and SSG are actually in a fight right now. You can see right at the northern side of that circle. So a huge moment for them around those train carts and around that building just outside of Overlook. But look at where this zone is finishing, right in the middle of nowhere. It is no man's land, and I'm not sure quite how you approach this. Maybe taking the most northern point, northeastern point where you have that high ground might be the best place to play here.
Absolutely. That Space Station Gaming battle still happening. You're seeing shots exchanged there, and teams are still trying to hold No Name as much as they can. You're going to see also a portal there coming in from the likes of PB Sandwiches. They're going to port in just against those No Name houses as well.
Defeated is going to be ballooning in by the looks of things, and maybe looking to land underneath where SSG are. But if we do have the opportunity to jump on board with SSG, that would be a massive moment to try and overlook. And you can see the Muffins is down there at the moment. Zera Tricky from west side, Mr. Hakulo inside of that truck as well, maybe looking for a third party opportunity. if it does present itself. But SSG, here we are right now. As I say in the HUD, Space Station GAM is Space Station Gaming. They're going to have to be very, very careful with every single step they make in this next few moments.
Yeah, we've outlined just how much is on the line for them. They have a very long road across these two games, and they need to make both of them count here. But now also taking a look here at Sentinels, we saw them hugging the tops of these chokes for essentially the whole game here as they're going to try to play out and see what might come their way on this edge.
There's going to be a jump pad rotation, and it's just going to mean beams out of the sky as we see Senox narrowly missing the triple take shot initially, trying to finish off a couple of these downs that might have happened. You can see picking up the kill onto G7, Dank, or getting the knock at least, and Crust not quite connecting with the triple take in the way that he maybe wanted, but should be able to finish some of these knocks. That will be KP on the board here for Sentinels. That just makes them feel a little bit safer. It's another step towards that final.
By the way, pretty solid. We just saw PB Sandwiches go down to CLG. PB Sandwiches was the one that ported in essentially on CLG's building in no name, which is pretty noteworthy just because we had PB Sandwiches in 10th place with 57. That's going to open up that bubble even more on set.
It really is. That is a massive, massive change as far as point distribution is concerned. Sentinels now thinking that third party is the best party to be. They're trying to land. Don't land on that jump pad, otherwise you're going to go straight up in the air. Big shots coming in from Retzi. The Eva 8 shots as well. Crack the skull, crack the flesh, and end up with the kill. Senox now with a triple take as well. But look at this, Retzi and Crust now gone down. It's all on the shoulders of Senox. We'll have the opportunity to get the armor swap off here, and has to be very, very careful. There's 3 players in the vicinity. That res is going to be incredibly difficult, but look, managed to sneak inside this building at least.
Big for Sentinels once again. Sentinels, nothing secured for them. If we take a look right now in 8th place here with 69 points. So a big moment for Senox. Very happy he's able to get that swap. Very happy it was a red as well. Probably going to go for the res here if the opportunity presents itself.
HRN and all sorts of problems as well. RKN trying to get one of his teammates up and going for the res onto Euris, but the pressure still coming in. He's got the zone at his back as well, but once again, Caustic showing the value that he does bring to a composition. If you can just get that ult down, get those barrels popped, you can get the res, but the kidnap's gonna come in. RKN, he gets kidnapped. And he gets extorted, and he will be taken down. He will be eliminated, and that is the beauty of Break.
And that's it for HRN. Now MST still having a lot of trouble to fight through here on the other end of this building as well.
MST, though, doing a great job, and it's TSM, I believe they're going up against 127. It isn't enough. TSM out, and for MST, just remember, they were right on the cusp of the top 10.
Yep.
So with the likes of Sentinels struggling a little bit, with the likes of Peanut Butter Sandwiches eliminated, maybe it's MST who are going to make this late run here.
It is a very, very big moment for them on set. You called it perfectly. They were in 11th place. They already saw 10th place drop. And this right here could determine if they make it into the NA finals. So far, a very good game 11 for them.
And you know, when you see a smiling Hal pop up on your screen, something's happened, but I'm not sure quite what. But MST managed to take down TSM in that fight. Not sure if it was a smile or a grimace on the face of Hal there, but Panda's going to be swapping over that gold helmet to give maybe the opportunity for Six to get that portal back up if he was the one who picked up. It was indeed. Now we're going to see a little bit of a hat juggling.
Yeah, I want to get that gold helmet swapped over there to make sure they maximize that. But now taking a look at Space Station. This is the team we've been watching here in all sorts of trouble.
Oh, they're in trouble, and Zanai was the last player alive. He manages to get out with 1 HP as the Octane. The only problem is there's a Bloodhound above him. I'm not sure if he is aware, and that will be Space Station eliminated. However, somehow they managed to get into the top 5 now, and Outcast Gaming now try to push in, finish off these kills inside the Dorito building. They're trying to get in, but the jump pad is going to slow things down. His mission, all sorts of shots here. I'm not sure if he's connected at all. Switch to the vault. That'll get the job done, and now it's a 1v1 inside this bubble. The rig will go down, and all of a sudden we're down to 3 teams.
Absolute carnage here, and no name scan still coming in. Buff Pathfinder going to go for that quick res, and they got to be careful here as all sorts of work needs to be done in terms of getting their team back in it. But now looking at MST, this is the team we've been talking about. They have a chance to put themselves in the middle of the pack here and maybe even secure their way through on this game alone.
Oh, they really do. 2 squads remaining, and they are up to a full complement of players. They've got things to work with. They've got positioning as well. They are overlooking the final team inside of this building. What a performance it's been from MST with their backs against the wall for the majority of the semi-finals. Now might that be their moment, like you mentioned, to break into the top 10.
Yeah, both Pathfinder, the team that we just saw, they're actually going to have a whole bunch of time to reset. So even though we saw those scans coming in earlier, they will be able to get all themselves back up on reds, and now have a slight armor advantage. And we'll have to see how they play this here in the final moments. It's a rare moment. It's a raw 3v3 between these two for our win in game number 11.
Armor advantage heavily on one side. Only Pandas with the red on one side, but we would say positionally, team up on the high ground have the advantage. However, that could change with one shot here from the Kraber in the hands of Bursty. He gets tagged up a little bit here. Doesn't want to show that he's got that Kraber in his hands. Needs to be so careful not to give that information away. But at the moment, this is almost like a search and destroy round as he narrowly misses the head there of the Wraith.
And like you said, positional advantage for sure, but right now Buff Pathfinder just trying to do whatever they can. Right now, they're looking for that opening poke. If they can get the damage here, it would give them really that opening to make something happen from this disadvantageous position. But instead, we'll have to see. Wisely, I do expect MST to not poke, to not show. There's no reason to allow that damage to come in, especially from something like a Kraber.
Well, it looks like they've managed to locate that there's one player who's a little bit split from the rest of his team. And they're going to try and Gibraltar bubble him off of that rock, and that's where they want to move up on. That's where they want to play. The scan going to come in as well, and now the bubble. It's a 2v3 situation for just a few moments, and now you're going to have to see a big shot being hit with this Kraber. If he can hit it, it will change the tide of this 3v3, but both teams don't want to give any kind of advantage away.
And now here comes the bombardment as well. They have to reset all the way back because they know they timed that on that bubble to have that bombardment hit just at the right time. Forces them all the way out, forces them south. Now they're playing this rock that they probably did not intend to play originally here. A little bit overexposed.
Look at this angle, though. Having to swing out a little bit wide to try and desperately connect with one shot that would, as I mentioned, completely change the complexion of this 3v3. Zone's going to start moving behind them. Wraith bobbing and weaving, but Matt not going to be able to connect once more with the Kraber. Has two shots now that haven't connected. And Bursty now looking to move forward once more, trying to sweep in and beam these players. But he's going to be taking down Metro with a huge knock initially in this fight. And now the rest of MST will move in 6 in a 1v1 situation. MST will win the 3v3, will win game 11, but most importantly will put up a massive point game for them in the complexion of the semifinals. That should put them inside of the top 10, which is what these semifinals are all about.
It really is all about that. And that's we saw as soon as they started to heat up just a bit, when they won that first battle, we were thinking MST, okay, rank 11. Keep in mind that was after peanut butter sandwiches had already dropped, so they played that so well. But we're going to take a look at a few highlights from that game. But that first knock that they just got in that bubble fight, a little bit of deja vu as we saw the likes of Buff Pathfinder trying to make that push up. Right there, though, that knock in the nick of time, that perfect team shot to get that beam, to get that opening, is exactly what they needed. They close out the game, but more importantly, as you said on set, to propel themselves up in the leaderboards. They were down by 11. That's a big delta off of the bubble. Between 10 and 11 to be an 11-point difference. As you saw in Group 2, it's completely different. MST going to grab a lot of points from that one.
Yeah, really important for them to do so as we take a look at some of the highlights from that game as well. And that zone was a harsh one for so many teams. It was, as you saw where it ended, out in the open, nowhere to really play for any teams, which is why you saw so many teams falling in and around that zone closing, just being forced into each other, into the open. I mean, a couple of rocks to play, a little bit of a deficit in maybe high ground and low ground, but a very difficult zone for any team to pull out the win. So even more impressive for MST to come out in that game and put together such a huge game.
Yeah, it really was fantastic. We got to see at the end too, and it was actually pretty close 3v3 in the end. It wasn't that comfortable, and MST had to work pretty hard for that one. Very nice, very well timed though, and I think a big part we got to talk about quickly before we go to break, just the fact that the ult from the MST side was so perfectly timed against the pre-bubble that came in from the Buff Pathfinder side. They knew that bubble was expiring. They hadn't done the damage or got the openings they needed to, so that ult pushed Buff Pathfinder back to a rock that they truly never intended playing, and that is what MST was then able to do. They take advantage of the second bubble and they close out the game.
Amazing stuff coming in from MST, and it is time for us to go for a break for the final time because we've only got one more game in the semi-finals. That's going to be coming up in just a few moments, and then we will confirm who will be going through to your North American finals. We'll see you in just a sec. And welcome back, you wonderful, wonderful people. Thank you for joining us for what will be the final game of the North American semi-finals for the GLL Masters Spring. Andy, I mean, that game has completely changed everything as far as the leaderboards are concerned, or we're expecting it to, at least. When we get to see them, I think we are going to see some shifts and a lot of teams being very nervous with only one game remaining.
Yeah, there's going to be some shakeups for sure. And if I'm honest, as Apex fans, that's kind of what we want to see. We want to see a pretty tight and pretty intense game number 12. And based off of the results that we just saw in that last game, especially with how MST did and how early an exit we saw from PB Sandwiches, let's go ahead and take a look.
That could be big. That could be really, really big for MST. 23 points for them. Space Station with 5 points getting into the top 10. Is that going to be enough to force them up the table? Sentinels just inside that top 10 as well. But I mean, I can't do like just looking at that. It's not giving me enough information about who's going to swap places. We need to see the overalls. But yeah, you can see how important that could be, Andy. And here are the overalls. And MST have forced their way in. 69 points for them. What a game to pull out of the bag with only one game remaining.
And a 12-point gap between 10th and 11th. And then after that, another 12-point gap between 11th and 12th. So MST, you said it perfectly. They absolutely forced their way in. They needed a game like that, a 23-point game, to get themselves into the top 10. Keep in mind, they were down by quite a bit to get themselves now. They were down by 12. They get themselves up by 12 there, and they're going to get in. Now, PB Sandwiches and Space Station Gaming, the pressure is on for those two squads. Is it possible that the likes of Lonely Fans and 2 Rank 1 Pub make it in with a huge performance? To be honest, looking at the math, not really. They would need an NRG-esque 38 point, whatever the heck they dropped earlier. I think it was 38 points. Really, our focus for this match on set is going to be right around the likes of Cruelty Sentinels, MST, PB Sandwiches, and Space Station Gaming about how that 8th through 12th looks. There are some big gaps, but nothing one game can't solve.
100%. I think Sentinels might be safe. You just feel maybe they're just slightly out of reach. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how things work out. I think they might have just about done enough, but I mean, MST, I mean, the time to do it was then, and it was now, and they managed to pull out not only the points that they needed, but the win as well on such a tough zone for everyone to play. And it wasn't like they did it the easy way as well. There's a fight against TSM. They won that 3v3. I mean, there were so many things that they did well. And even that final fight, they were against a team who had a Kraber. And they played it so well not to give him the opportunity. And even whoever was on the Wraith, I mean, I need to double check who's playing Wraith for them right now. But I mean, to force those Kraber shots, to give the peak, the little shoulder jiggle, but not give the opportunity to hit the shot that was an easy shot, so to speak, and waste that ammo. Little things like that really do change the tide. And plus, if you're the player who's like taking those shots to the Kraber and you miss a couple, the doubt starts to come into your mind. It's like, oh, I'm gonna need to put it away. We need to think of something else. I'm not hitting the shots. It's such a psychological advantage just from doing something as simple as executing a solid shoulder peek.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, not only are you kind of set out and you've missed a few Kraber shots, but now you're playing on ground that maybe you never intended on playing. But this is going to be a wild game number 12. Like I said, as Apex fans, just like you guys at home, we want to see it go all the way down to the wire. It's entirely possible that you have a game 12 where this isn't really a situation where it isn't this close and where you don't have opportunities for teams to claw their way back in just as the points fall. But that is not the case here. It's going to be a pretty fantastic game 12 to close it out for the North American semifinal.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you all at home the semi-finals. It's been a great job from GLL to make sure that we're bringing you as much coverage of the North American GLL Masters Spring as we have. It's been a lot of fun, but 12 games is finally about to result in our top 10. It's game 12 time, Andy. It's do or die for these teams.
It is, and now starting things off here, who better than with MST after that performance that they just had, a pretty big 23-point game to totally shake up the table, as you had mentioned on set.
Well, MST are landing around Thermal and the train station just outside of it right now, which makes their win even more impressive. The fact they had to traverse their way across World's Edge and make themselves known to the rest of the squads in the lobby around that final circle. But look at that. I mean, a very central circle once again. That is about as central as you could possibly ask. As far as a lobby is concerned, Harvester going to be involved as well. And you just wonder what way that's going to pull, because I think it's a Harvester zone. But again, it's one of those that looks too simple to be true sometimes.
It's true. And actually now we're going to see a few different changes happening in drops. We'll get to those, but this looks awfully similar on set to that match number 7 that we saw game number 1 today in terms of exactly where that pull is. But I want to talk about it again. This is probably the highest ratio of unplayable space we've seen in GLL Masters Spring. And I've actually seen an Apex for a long time. You'd be hard pressed to hover a circle that size over the map and have less playable space than you do right now.
Yeah, a lot of mountainous areas involved, and unfortunately, unless you've got a pair of rock climbing boots on you, you're not going to be able to get up there too easily. So the teams is going to be all about that early rotation. SSG, they need to maybe think about taking some edge fights to get the points on the board that they need, and then working their way in with a third-party opportunity. But look at NRG. Nathan is overlooking this fight that could break out between RCO and SSG. He's going to back up now. But I mean, I think that NRG recognize maybe that SSG are on the cusp of being eliminated, and they're thinking, hey, if we can take out a team like SSG here and knock them out of the finals, it makes our job a little bit easier in the finals. Take out your competition.
Yeah, you have to wonder. They back off a bit. Fine line between the griefing and taking out competition. Depends on, I guess, which Apex fan you ask. We'll have to see. Right now, they instead take the Harvester route. But RCO, who, by the way, did steal that train route, they're actually pushing on SSG right now. And you have to assume that a battle is going to come soon based on how close all those names are getting here as they're trying to get some angles. But maybe RCO's instead just going to sneak all the way into Countdown.
Yeah, it looks like they're backing up to Countdown, which is going to make SSG's path a little bit clearer. You can see they're currently just still looting up around Lava Fissure. They're not going to be too exposed. Probably using the crafting station there as well to make sure they've got the batteries and everything that they need to make their move. But I mean, really, really nervy moments for SSG. I mean, it's been not the tournament that they would have wanted so far. And, you know, there hasn't been a lot of Western zones. We should keep that into account, but you need to be able to put enough points together across 12 games to get to a final, even without the zones going your way.
Absolutely. And just to keep everyone in mind, if you're just joining us here, you picked a heck of a to tune in. It is right now we're taking a look at the bubble because these are the semifinals. The top 10 teams will advance. It's going to be MST in 10th right now with 69. 5-point lead above them is going to be Sentinels in 9th, and Cruelty and My Little Phony tied at 75. So really anything can happen here. On the other side of that bottom 10, you've got teams like PB Sandwiches and Space Station Gaming, which we would have bet would have been in that top 10. So really fantastic game number 12 with this central zone teed up for us in our final match of the NA semis.
Yeah, NRG making their rotation as well, and interesting to see that they've managed to quickly rotate into Harvester. They've got somewhere to play as well, even though it was a little bit scary just for a few moments. You saw one of the players have his shields broken, but now they're trying to get aggressive, and that's PB Sandwiches down there on the bottom as well. So NRG can have a real influence. If PB Sandwiches go out here, then quite simply, they will not be making the finals.
That's right. NRG with way too much power. Nathan down there for a second looks like going to be trying to get him up in a moment, and they're going to hold up top for a second, but PB Sandwich is definitely in dire situation.
You can see that Sweet is doing a good job here of just making sure that nobody's going to push in for that third-party opportunity. PB Sandwich is really not in a position they want to be in, though, down on that low ground, giving so many lines of sight to the likes of NRG to fire back and cause all sorts of problems. Of course, the grenades are going to be so deadly as well. There's no Watson interception pylon to slow those down, and now all of a sudden you've got an Arcstar coming in, and all of a sudden peanut butter sandwiches, the bread's starting to fall apart a bit.
And yeah, it's not looking good. This is a soggy peanut butter sandwich. I need to be very careful, get this thing off of the ground as fast as they can, because if there's one team that knows how to push an advantage, it is NRG, and they will not hesitate. Black Hole goes down there, seeing that Horizon ult, and Vibe's going to try to make this push as well.
Yeah, it does a great job as well. Manages to catch the Arcstar and get the damage done onto Fury, and he'll be taken out finally. And that'll be a KP on the board here for Vibes, who have been, in my opinion, the team we weren't expecting to do well, who have overperformed so well. They have been absolutely fantastic Vibes throughout the semifinals, and will be in that final lobby when we do get to our grand final. So congratulations for them. TSM trying to make a rotation, but you can see already having a little bit of a resistance on their way towards Harvester.
Yeah, it was CLG holding that central choke. Used to be a big zip choke, of course, a much more traversed area in earlier versions of World's Edge. Not as popular anymore, but still CLG deciding to hold there, and TSM wants no part of that. They're going to scope out the ridge choke and also underpass to see if there might be even easier routes in. I'm thinking maybe it'll be underpass based on that route, or even wider, but also taking a look at some action here at Tree. Looks like with Cool Cats.
Yeah, Cool Cat's trying to find anything they can, any fight that they can. NRG once again having a fight. It looks like NRG actually might have just eliminated peanut butter sandwiches. So PB Sandwiches, one of the top teams in North America, will not be making it through to the grand finals. We said how there could be an upset with so many talented teams in this lobby, and we have our first one here, Andy.
HRN also going down there. Actually, I think as we turned away for just a second, we'll have to see exactly how this one plays out, exchanging some kills as BVN is trying to do whatever he can. In the end, though, as I try to follow this kill feed that just got so nuts, it looks like in the end it's going to be Six who's going to be able to pick up a few kills there. But now back over to Space Station.
Space Station moving their way in and sweeping away what was left of that fight. That's going to be 2 kills now to Denial. So Space Station Gaming, even though up until this point they haven't really turned up in this tournament, know what they have to do. They are getting aggressive. They are trying to force these fights, trying to be the perfect third party. They know they need a lot of points on the board. They have no option but to play like they are right now.
Absolutely. I believe if we take a look at exactly where they are, they're quite a bit down. I think they're 24 points or so off of that 10th place if we take a look at exactly where they are. So they need an absolutely huge game here. Not impossible though, not an outrageous game, just one that really lets them pop off and they could find themselves in there. But we talked about it onset. NRG is bullying people out of this lobby and out of this tournament here at Harvester.
Sweet's going to have to back down, though, and currently in the position that we saw being held by Peanut Butter Sandwiches a few moments ago. Unfortunately, PB Sandwiches didn't have too much success due to NRG getting aggressive and making sure that they took advantage of the opportunity to knock out a team such as them. HRN, you can see on the team tracker, like you mentioned, also eliminated. MST eliminated as well, the winners of our last game. So all of a sudden, maybe there is an opportunity here for Space Station.
Wow, MST getting eliminated. As a reminder, MST is your 10th place team right now with 69 points. And after that, next team was Peanut Butter Sandwiches, also eliminated with 57 points. And with 45, it's Space Station Gaming is that one team that you think really has the shot at sneaking into that top 10 and stealing that spot from MST.
You can see Space Station at the moment. They're around Tree, and they are safe. They are not within any line of sight of any team near them. They have the complete southern side of the map to play. It's going to be interesting to see how they try and rotate, though. It's going to be a very interesting few moments from them. You can see TSM right at the north side of the map as well, as far as the ring is concerned, inside of Fragment West, sniped down on top of the construction building. You can see that Reps and Hal currently on the tracks as well. A little bit split. The snipe down is going to make his way towards his teammates now. There's going to be West Side who are behind them. Just above them is another team just rotating through Fragment East, maybe looking to come up and third party this.
Yeah, that's going to be 2 rank 1 pub that's also north that you were just highlighting and the OBS team was highlighting as well. So TSM definitely stuck in between that lava choke. Need to be careful with West Side and 2 rank 1 pub. Both those teams would love to be part of a final battle that takes down TSM and tries to put a few more points on the board. Now we get a nice overview of exactly how that looks. TSM's just holding on the outside, kind of in between the 2 chokes. And once again, we're going to see them do a similar rotation as Hal's on the prowl to instead bring them back towards underpass instead as we check on board with Space Station in a battle here.
Fight going down. Bubble going to be forced as well. 68 with the R301 will give them the opportunity to push, and it's going to be Bursty. He's taken down by Frex, who looks like he's a man on a mission in this game. They've already managed to get 1 knock. They will secure the kill as well, and now expect Space Station Gaming to take advantage of this. Surely they have to push on this position.
Yeah, this is the Space Station that we expect to see. This is their normal form. This is the talent that you see on this team as they hold height here and decide how they might want to try to push this snake.
Clarify is going to jump down. He's going to try and be aggressive. You can see the rest of this team trying to get away as well. If they can beam this player out of the sky, it would be absolutely massive for them. Unfortunately, they can't do so, and now the other player is trying to scuttle away up that ramp. 32 not going to get the break. The break finally does come in, but now SSG got to be extremely careful as those shots being fired off across World's Edge here have alerted the rest of the lobby to their position.
They do have to be very careful, and what has to be in their mind is we talked about onset about play style and how the numbers start to factor into play style. Space Station certainly knows at this point that they cannot just play a kill heavy top 4 finish. That's not going to get them. Remember, 24 points they're down. They need a big game here, and it needs to be one where they put that many points on the board, and that's a very different play style here, and they need to make sure that they're taking risks at some point throughout this game as they can continue to battle through here.
Yeah, they're going to pick up 1 kill though onto Caps. That's going to be another KP going down to Space Station Gaming, and sometimes you just feel like a team catches fire at just the right time here in Apex Legends. SSG know what they want to do, but look at this. NRG could once again have a say on this lobby. They're looking for the third party opportunity with the jump pad, but NRG now backing up.
I was going to say the man's gamer tag might be sweet dreams, but these are things of nightmares for these teams on the bubble, as they just have to watch out for NRG ready to swoop in and crush their GLL Masters dreams here for the spring split. Because Space Station, like we said, this is a performance where even if they had an awesome, say 10, 12 kill third place, it would not be enough. They need to get even more than that, and they need to play some very good Apex Legends and with some very calculated risks to make sure that they are getting at least that many points on the board. So their endgame strat will be very interesting to watch.
Well, it looks like TSM are continuing their battle with Westside here, I presume, which is the team that they're currently focusing their attentions to. Zone 3 will be closing now. Popping up, I should say, closing in around 2 minutes' time. And it is indeed.
I was going to say, two rank 1 pub is actually even closer. No, excuse me, I apologize. 2 rank 1 pub is even closer in this battle here, and all the way on the other side of that is going to be west side.
The 3 teams still working their way around this area. TSM still trying to overlook and see if they can pick up some kills, and you are completely right. West side on the very western side of this fight. G7 Dan going to be taking a lot of damage through the skies as well. Going to be forced to pop a battery, but Team 800s with a Z is going to be doing enough to at least slow things down. But Westside now trying to get a little bit aggressive with that Gibraltar defensive bombardment going down, being used in an offensive capacity. And now 2 rank 1 pub going to be forced to back up. And that might be the signal for TSM to try and sneak up a little bit here and see if they can capitalize on the damage being done by the other teams.
Yeah, perfect time in their onset. You knew that it was coming in from the rear, and here from distance, try to poke, just see what opportunities might present themselves. And looks like maybe not the exactly most appetizing third-party opportunity, but they're still going to get curious about it and see what they might be able to do against the likes of Westside.
We've also got a team coming up behind them, though. They need to be extremely careful that they don't get caught off guard here. You can see just to the left of your screen, there is a team sneaking up behind TSM, and Reps has no idea. If they beam Reps in this position, he is down for the count. He's slightly out of position, but sliding down into that position has actually just broken that line of sight that the team behind would have had. So Reps, maybe, I'm not sure if it was a piece of genius or maybe a little bit of good fortune going for him as far as positioning is concerned. I think we'll vie on the side of genius because of what Reps, his reputation is as a player. A scary, scary moment there for TSM.
It was. That was Cruelty to their rear that was coming in and thinking about maybe trying to make something happen. Now, Cruelty team is sitting pretty. They just know that as long as they play a pretty consistent game here, they have 75 points. As long as they play a moderate kill game with a decent placement, they should be through. So I'm not surprised to see Cruelty not take that risk.
Sentinels, another team who are inside of that top 10 as it stands and should be pretty comfortable. It's the same story like you just mentioned for Team Cruelty as it is for Sentinels. Just play safe. Play calm, work your way in late. As long as you're inside of that top 10, you will be safe and you will be qualifying for the finals. The 3-1 in the hands of Retzi here. They're not going to be doing too much, as the team that was trying to rotate behind them is going to be 2 rank 1 pub, who we saw just a few moments ago in that choke between Fragment and Harvester. Now they're going to be changing their rotation. They're going to be going through the tunnel here. They need to be quick because you can see that zone's going to be closing and they're not going to be safe if they try and make this rotation through towards that snake outside of Harvester.
Yeah, Sentinels and Cruelty team, you have to wonder, they would have caught in the feed PB sandwiches and MST going down. You have to wonder if they are doing that quick math to determine that Space Station Gaming really is the only team that can bite at their heels. The same with the Sentinels and My Little Phony, who are essentially all tied right around the 75 mark, because essentially just one wipe like that would be all it takes to make sure that they are through. So if any of these teams are aware of that, that could come into play, but we'll have to see if that plays out.
This could be the zone that just finishes to the east of Harvester, just pulls out into that open ground, maybe just outside exactly where NRG are located right now. So interesting moments in this game. Sentinels in a pretty good position, but Sentinels also looking to get aggressive here onto Team Cruelty. You can see Crummy and Scissors trying to pop some barriers. Osenpai trying to do exactly the same thing himself, and Krusty's going to have to back up here, and as are Retzi and Senox deciding they don't want to take that fight. But you can see there, Team Cruelty, unfortunately, one of the players got knocked from a triple take coming in from its Voltic inside of Harvester, and TSM now made their way above the snake. This is NRG and TSM on top of each other.
Yeah, Voltic from the Vibes team connecting from distance and causing a little bit extra havoc here. Dome's going to have to go down there for the TSM side. Energy's going to fly right in.
Yeah, they are going to fly right in. And look at this from Nathan. No respect being shown to TSM. And NRG not only will pick up the kills, Nathan's gonna put a little bit of a teabag down on that sniper and the rest. That is disrespect. I love it, and I want to see more of it in Apex Legends.
Here we go. This is very, very clear disrespect. It's a clear message from the NRG side against TSM, and I'm almost uncomfortable with how efficient NRG's pushes are on those bubble wins. When they come in once again, it is tactical. That is a SWAT team that flies in through and they pick up those kills, and they had a few extra words, a few extra things to say on set afterwards as well.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely love it. I'm one of those people who thinks that, you know, when you've got competition, there's always going to be emotion involved. And it's great to see those rivalries build between two teams. And it looks like NRG want a rivalry with TSM. They are quite happy to try and dominate and show that they are the best team in North America. This is what this is all about. Remember, to get into that finals lobby. And Sentinels now trying to hold off this push behind them. The Prowler in the hands of Sunox is going to allow him to do a lot of damage, excuse me, up close and personal. But Cruster's gone down. Redzy almost gone down as well. But Sentinels now wiped in this final game. And 2 rank 1 pub will be the team that come out on top.
Yeah, 2 rank 1 pub there. The bombardment making a huge difference there, timing it just after that second bubble. It looked like they were going to have a bubble advantage, but the bombardment comes down. Here comes another one in the hall as well. This sorting tunnel is just absolute death and carnage right now.
Yeah, Team Cruelty with a third party to just come in and sweep that up. Such a simple job for them, and they will be safe just behind these rocks inside of that next zone. And Scissors seems to be poking his head up a little bit higher than you would imagine. NRG now, once again, after that fight with TSM, going to be brewing with confidence. They want to take another 3v3.
Oh, they're on triple red. They're going to just keep flying through here. They're going to just continue the aggression through the bombardments. They're not worried. They come around the corner. The team shots coming in once again. Boom, boom. And they
does not care. He goes in. He flies in. He does so much damage inside of those bubbles. It is a pleasure to watch this man play.
It is nuts, and like you said, they are a absolute freight train right now, just flying through, and they're going to be even better in terms of armor now. Sweet on gold, and now they have their eyes set on Harvester as well. Space Station Gaming, we got to circle back. They're holding level 2 Harvester right now. They are the big threat to break into the top 10 to get into the NA finals.
They're in the top 5 in this game, and there is a chance. There's always a chance. If you get towards the end game, Space Station Gaming leaving it late. But have they left it too late? That's the question now as they make their way through the central structure. Harvester just trying to overlook and see where these teams are located, get the information they need before they make their next move.
Now, of course, now with 5 squads left, they can't just play the win here. Now, we've always known that, but it's even more true now. They need a lot of the kills, and now 4 squads left. They need almost all the kills that are left in this lobby. Simply getting a win here, even if they get 50% of the kills, probably won't be enough. Keep in mind, they would need a 12-kill win to get through. They need to make sure they have a ton of these kills on the board, and they need to claim them all for their own.
Yeah, they need to kind of like aim a few of these opportunities that we're seeing right now. The damage is being done, but they're not getting the kills, they're not getting the knocks, and you can see even with the damage being done here by Zanaya with the Hemlock, it isn't turning into kills. And the issue for them is that NRG are killing everything. NRG are taking the kills out of the lobby and the points out of the lobby here for SSG.
NRG's total after this semifinal is going to be absolutely wild. And like you said, look at this 6 right now kill leader here for Sweet as they continue to mop up, and they are certainly the biggest threat to Space Station, not in direct 3v3, but just in terms of points economy.
The NRG controlling, patrolling, and just looking for anyone who dares turn their attention to them. Space Station Gaming, though, this is a huge opportunity for them to look for a third party, but here come NRG again. Sweet moving in this time with the Eva 8. SSG need to make this move because NRG will get that door closed and they will be able to reset in that fight. I feel like that was an opportunity that might have been missed by Space Station Gaming, but at the same time, they're aware that team is underneath and could have come on third party.
I do too. It feels like a lot of risks have to be taken here at this stage, and even though it's a very different strategy than any other time that you would play this game, I would never recommend pushing that battle we just saw. But I think in this circumstance, it certainly was something they had to consider, because if they could have gotten the wipes on all those kills, it could have been a difference maker. Now the pressure's even on even more. We don't know their total kills. We saw Zanile had 3 on the board, so you have to think, depending on how much Clarify and Frex have, they might need all of these kills that are left in the game to get through.
And once again, it's Vibes who are the third team alive here, down low, making their way towards endgame. Once again, a phenomenal performance coming in from Vibes. And now Space Station Gaming, as well as NRG, have an opportunity here to somehow scrape their way into that top 10. It would be the definition of a last gasp. But look at this, SSG, they've lost a player, and Rocker once again says, hello boys, I'm coming in to finish off these kills. He's got the Eva 8 out, and I'm pretty sure this man has barely missed a bullet with that gun in his hands.
Absolutely unbelievable. It's NRG once again with perfect timing as they fly right up on height. They're not afraid, and they're not done yet. They're also taking down Vibes as well.
They are taking down everybody in this lobby, but it will be Vibes who come in as the third party and clean things up to close out what has been a crazy couple of days here for the North American semifinals. But I mean, Space Station had the opportunity in that game. They really did get themselves into a great position, but Nathan doesn't care. He just doesn't care. He flies in, Eva 8 in hands. The man doesn't miss. He has been an animal. NRG have been animals.
They absolutely have, as we take a look at highlights from that game number 12 of our North American semifinal, and it was quite a game that came down to the absolute wire with our top 3 squads. But like you said, Nathan really doesn't care. He also, you might have seen on Twitter, 15 of those kills in that 38-point game were his as well. And you know, he put up big points in this game, and certainly that entire NRG squad. Like I said, the man might be called Sweet Dreams, but it has been a nightmare for the rest of the lobby, and they just kept flying in. Perfect timing once again on the pad against SSG. And we saw just at the end, Obs pointed out as we take a look at this. Oh, I know you love this push from NRG as well.
I mean, Nathan just flies in with that Eva 8, and inside the bubble, he does so much damage so quickly. And then Sweet was like, hey, no, you've been playing pretty well, Nathan. You know, I'm going to have a go myself. And you've seen the Kraber shots. And then, I mean, every single player who has been on NRG today has been on fire. Rocker included. And as I say it, we swap over to the point of view of Rocker. He goes in and dominates absolutely everyone. I mean, NRG may be more concerned about taking Space Station out of the game than they were about winning it themselves, but it meant the win in the end went to Vibes, and I don't know if it was enough for Space Station to come through and find themselves inside that top 10. But what a crazy effort from them in that final game to leave it that late and get so close.
Yeah,
is it going to be enough?
Yeah, it was great to see. We saw the Obs put in chat that they had 6 kills total at the end. We'll wait till we have official scores, but if they only had 6 kills total, it meant that they would have needed every kill remaining in the lobby when there were 3 teams left and the win to get 24 points from that game. So we can almost be certain that they did not get through. We'll wait till the official scores come through, of course, but you have to think for Space Station, maybe risks needed to be taken earlier, because even when you are in a situation like that, what are the chances with third parties that you get every kill in that last battle? It would require absolutely perfect, not just perfect Apex gameplay, but also perfect amount of luck as well. But it has been an amazing set of days. We'll wait for those scores to come, but all the way down in the last game in terms of deciding who comes through as our top 10.
I mean, I think it has been a crazy couple of days, and it goes to show how strong North American Apex Legends is at the very top level right now. You have so many teams who are in contention, even down to the last game. You know what I mean? In this 20-team lobby, that's showing that it seems like when we started off the Apex Legends competitive cycle, there was kind of 5-6 teams that kind of separated themselves from the rest, right? But now when you get to the finals and you have those 20 teams in there, it really does feel like anyone on their day can take it away. But I said right at the start of yesterday, the NRG have been on this consistent upward trajectory. They win the Winter Circuit playoffs. They looked like the most dominant team in Apex Legends over the last 2 days.
Oh, they are. And then they look not just the most dominant as well, but they look like just the fiercest in terms of the way that they're taking these 3v3s. They are taking straight 50-50 3v3s pretty commonly. And then as long as they get just the tiniest bit of damage, the tiniest bit of advantage, or even in scenarios where we saw they don't have that advantage, they're in with confidence. They're ready to take those bubble fights. Eva 8s are out. And like I said, I would love to see a breakdown just at the speed of which they get those third party clean and how fast it wipes, how fast they reset, and how fast they're on to the next thing. It feels like they leave no room for error when they pick up those kills, especially if you look at that TSM push at the end. They just get the right damage. They fly right in, and it feels like you're looking at under 6 seconds sometimes before they are looting, healing, and
yeah, it really is impressive from NRG, and I think they're just going to continue to get better and better, especially with Sweet at the helm calling. You know, we've seen what Rocker and Nathan can do in the last 2 days. I mean, mechanically, those guys are absolutely insane and just seem to be getting better and better as a unit as well. TSM, a great performance from them over the last 2 days as well. Maybe a little bit slower today than they were yesterday, but I mean, yesterday they were a crazy high level as well. CLG a little bit of a quieter day today, but we keep saying it. There's so many massive teams now in North America that could win every tournament. We're like, CLG were amazing. TSM were amazing. NRG were amazing. Like
HRN
everyone
was amazing.
is amazing. Yeah. HRM was amazing. Vibes. Shout out to you, by the way.
Yep,
amazing performance from them with all of these crazy things going on around you to make your way into that finals. I mean, insane North American Apex Legends. I've absolutely loved the semifinals.
It has been great, and it didn't feel like a semifinal, and it didn't feel like it even when you and I started to prepare for this event. When we looked at the list of teams, and we were starting to build teams to watch, building how their quarterfinals were, how all these teams performed in the winter playoffs, we were like, wait a minute, for a semifinal, there's almost too many teams to list here about how this lobby was going to play, and I don't think it disappointed at all. I think we got to see amazing action from the top squads and even a few upsets as well.
Yeah, of course, and there might be some more upsets. Remember, we've got another semi-final going on as well. It's almost like you say, it feels like a final, and sometimes I forget there's another semi-final going on because we've been following this one group of teams. But we saw Solar Fide were outside of the top 10. We saw that Liquid were just about inside of the top 10, so we really could see some surprises cropping up ahead of that finals lobby. But I mean, what lobby it's going to be, Andy? That's one thing we can guarantee. If you don't want to miss the GLL Masters Spring Grand Finals when it comes around, and I know you're going to be casting it. I know I won't be joining you, sadly. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're actually really happy about it, but it's going to be amazing. It's going to be an absolute blast.
No, it would be great to have you for those North American finals, but it's so glad to have you for these semifinals. But you're right, it's going to be a crazy lobby. I can't wait till we get the overall scores from both, because then we'll know what the makeup of that lobby is. But it's going to be even more games too, as you recall from previous GLL Masters. It's going to be a total of a 16-game set, so it will be a grueling gauntlet for these teams, and it will truly determine who's sitting on top right now before we get into the ALGS Championship. So you had mentioned it yesterday, but it's a really nice moment here where we get to see post-playoffs as the meta settles a bit, as after we come out of Season 8's first patch, as we come out of the Chaos Theory patch and a lot of meta shakeup. Where do things sit before the championship? It's going to be a really nice opportunity to see across 16 games how that all plays out.
And teams are hitting levels of consistency and ability that I think we haven't seen yet in Apex Legends. I always say it, right? It just seems like every time that we see these teams play, there's another level. They find another level of whether it's things they do meta-wise, whether it's execution, whether it's whatever it might be. North American Apex Legends and Apex Legends in general competitively it keeps hitting these crazy heights. And I think you make a great point there. Just like it was, you know, we're talking about the finals of this tournament, but we have to remember as well, this is all leading up to the ALGS Championships, probably the biggest prize pool we've seen in a heck of a long time for these teams. And that is why you're seeing them all push to such crazy heights. And NRG, no surprise to see them at the top of the leaderboard, 17 kills this time for NRG. Space Station Gaming, 13 points on the board will not be enough. TSM inside that top 10 once more, but I mean, it was a crazy last game. Vibes in second again. We can't talk enough about Vibes, but these are the final standings. MST get in, and unfortunately for Space Station and Peanut Bar Sandwiches, it will be a finals that they will have to spectate and not take part in. But I mean, what a top 10 that is. You couldn't argue against anyone in that top 10 saying they didn't deserve it.
Certainly, I think those are definitely the two teams, Space Station and Peanut Butter Sandwiches, that were upset here, that we expected to see in that group. But a very worthy top 10. NRG, TSM, HRN, Vibes, CLG, bottom 20, Cruelty, My Little Phony, Sentinels, and MST are the ones that get through. And onset, we talked about it in game number 11. We knew that MST kind of had their path forward to break into the top 10 in that game. And you have to think that the players knew it as well. They made it count. They had a huge game 11, and that alone got them through.
Yeah, a massive game 11. That win was huge. The execution on that final 3v3 will live with them long in the memory, and hopefully they can take that confidence into the final. But 95 kills for NRG. Just shy of 100 kills. I mean, to put that into perspective, Complexity only had 68, and they led in the other semi-final. But this is the other semi-final, Andy. And wow, Solar Fide will not be joining us in the finals.
Wow, and if you talk about all the things that in terms of surprises that I don't think anyone who had Solar Fide not making out on the bingo card, let us know, because you certainly win this one, as they'll surprisingly will not be part of the GLL Masters Spring NA finals. Like you said about the other group, they'll have to sit back and watch, and certainly we'll give them a little bit of time to reflect before finals, because it's a team we expect to bounce back. But let's focus on the left side. Complexity, Season, Dudes Night Out, KSZ, Sheesh, TSS, Farm Boys, absolute units. The Doge Fathers, not only is the price rising, but also they're going to be happy to get through. And also Team Liquid, all of them through. Team Liquid narrowly getting through. Can we take a look at what is essentially a 4-way tie for 10th place? That's a 2-point difference between 10th and 13th, and Team Liquid edges in on 1 point over Content and BSC. So Team Liquid, after a very strong quarterfinal, a 98 kill quarterfinal, they're going to have to make sure that they bounce back, but they do the job. They get in on 1 point in group number 2.
And that's the point, isn't it? You know, top 10 is all that matters in the semi-final. Get yourselves into the grand final, then you can reassess and look at what is going to be going down. But what a 20 teams it is. Obviously some upsets, obviously some surprises, but I think every single team in that top 20 is going to be putting up one hell of a fight ahead of the grand finals. But Andy, been an absolute pleasure, my friend. It's been too long. Hopefully we get to do it again soon. Thank you for joining me. Any final words after we wrap up today?
Oh man, it's so great joining you. Love casting this game. Love casting this game with you. And it was a pleasure to be back with you. Huge shout out to, of course, the entire GLL team. One of our favorite teams to work with in esports. Always ready to put on a great show and have a great time. So we can't wait to be back in Stockholm with you. But also, I want to just give a shout out to all of the players that put on amazing performances in Apex. These players grind day in, day out. You know how hard they work at this game, and as Onset said, they're just continuing to up the skill and up the ante, especially in North America. So it was amazing, and all the viewers, of course, for tuning in. It was just been a great set of 2 days, and I can't wait for the finals.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Absolute pleasure as always. Thank you all for watching. It's been a hell of a ride over the last 2 days. The finals is going to be just as exciting as well. Shout out to GLL, like Andy said, for putting on this show and bringing you the semi-finals, let alone the finals of the GLL Masters Spring. But that's going to do it all for now. My name is Onset. That is, of course, Bravo. From both of us, thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you soon.